There we go. What's up, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny and Silver for the Best Gaming Podcast. Number 491, 489, 491, 495, 762. I don't remember which number we are, to be brutally honest. I wrote this, and I can't see which number we are. But we're a lot. We got a lot. We got 400 of these. Sorry for a minute late, but we were trying to get the system up and running. We were having some issues on my end, which is very typical. We're going to talk about Ubisoft and Tencent today because there are some rumors that Ubisoft and Tencent are going to come together in a giant unibrow of video games, which I'm not quite happy about. Did you guys see the news for that one?
No.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
You saw it. Yeah, there's some news on that possibly happening. So we'll discuss it. We'll discuss the ins and the outs and the possibilities of it. And then we will also jump into Silent Hills reviews, which that game did really well. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that, but I was actually pretty surprised. That game reviewed quite well for a remake. Okay. So we'll talk about that as well, which, yeah, it was really good to see it actually doing well, especially with remakes. They're always questionable. Then we got Halloween games, Wind Blown Until Dawn reviews, hopefully reviews by the time we get about halfway through this podcast, because that's actually one of the things I got to see is if the reviews have hit by then, because I'm not quite sure they have. And then Alters was delayed. We're also going to talk about Outlaws patches, anything these guys have, as well as a bunch of questions from the Discord, a little bit about Metaphor, and then I have some thoughtful questions at the end, some cool stuff that we may end up discussing about game and game making. Let us begin. Yeah, so this will go out, should be going out right now while we do this. First up, what have you guys been playing?
A lot of Satisfactory.
A lot. Like, how much is a lot?
So today I had the day off from work and I played a lot of hours because I unlocked trains and just, got into a huge rabbit hole setting up power facilities and different factories with glass and stuff, and then just getting it all hooked up. Yeah.
And this is the 1.0, right?
Yeah, it's the 1.0. It's really smooth, just flows really well. You're never really stuck like having to grind for a bunch of materials. The curve is very smooth. You always, have ways to set yourself up to have plenty of materials to do everything. And you're always unlocking new things. And yeah, the way it all comes together, with the trains, the trucks, and everything is pretty awesome.
And what got you into it? Because you had played it originally?
I had, and I wanted to check out the 1.0, and a lot of these later things I hadn't experimented with yet because they weren't fully out at the time. So yeah.
What about you, Silver?
Mainly God of War Ragnarok for PC, the PC port. I've been recording a playthrough on Give Me God of War difficulty with no HUD for my channel, and doing that for the most part, but also still playing Space Marine 2 and Helldivers 2.
What's the port report there for the God of War?
Solid. I haven't had any issues, but I'm running it on a 4070 at 4K the DLSS upscaling. I'm getting 6 plus 60 frames. No problem at all.
So, did you pick it up just for the PC comfort or wherever you sit? I don't know. Like, what caused you to pick it back up? Was it the extra performance that you were hoping to get? Like, what made you jump back in?
Partially, we're like 4K 60. There was an appeal there, but also just I felt like getting back into the game and like recording Give Me God of War No HUD playthrough felt like it could be fun. Like, I don't see a lot of players playing that game with no HUD, so.
And has it been fun?
Yeah, it has. Like, I've always enjoyed that game with no HUD. Like, there are certain frustrations you get with it where you can't always tell like timers on various cooldowns for for like your relic and stuff, you have to sort of gauge that mentally. But I think that also sort of adds to the challenge in a way.
Excellent. I have been playing Windblown. Jeez. I wasn't even thinking of Windblown. I was thinking of like what I've been playing, and it's been a lot of not older stuff, but stuff that's come out in the last, like month or so that I've missed. Windblown is definitely up there, which we'll definitely cover some more about that one. I did a preview on the main channel, and then a game or two for later review. Didn't get Silent Hill 2. I requested it late, but from what I looked at today, it was all whoever did reviews have a website. That happens a lot of times where they sort of do. YouTubers don't get them if they're just YouTubers. You have to have a website to get them in that company in particular, sort of like that. And then Until Dawn, I think review code was available today, the day of. And so I decided I'm just going to play that on my own, completely separate, and see how that is. Because there's some graphical changes to that one that I got to say I was not impressed with that I've seen. But doesn't mean I won't be impressed when I play the game. I just, a still picture means a lot. Have you guys ever accidentally had a video of yourself and you pause it and you're all, you're just like, what is wrong with me, man? Do I look like that all the time?
I mean,
or the red eyes. Yeah, the country red eyes like a raccoon. Go ahead. What were you going to say? What were you going to say, John?
For that one, because that's full price. That's actually like £60 here.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's a big ask, right? For a game that's kind of re-releasing with not giant graphical changes to it. It's kind of a touch up.
Well, I mean, there is some graphical changes to it. I mean,
I've noticed some. Up. Yeah, I was watching someone play it today, and I definitely noticed more polish, like a crisper. And I think they changed the aspect ratio, so now you have like full 16:9. So yeah, there's some cool changes there, but for full price, certainly we would expect a really good.
Speaking of the ratio thing, I don't know if you guys saw, but I guess Outlaws had an issue with its widescreen. So that was one of the patches that they did in Star Wars Outlaws. They also fixed a bunch of the stuff with the speeder bikes, and they fixed stealth. Or when I say fixed, you guys know what I mean. Doesn't mean fixed. It just means they've tried to go in and improve stealth. So it was nice to hear about those changes to that one and adjustments to it. I'll probably return to it to check out the stealth and just see how the stealth feels in that one. Just for the fun, just to jump in.
Yeah.
What's up, Corn? What's up, Wicked? Rogerio? Hopefully this goes out. It looks like it's doing half the alert, but I don't know why. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with this side channel. It's definitely become sort of a albatross around my neck. When it comes to what else we've been playing, but we were talking about TV shows prior to us starting. Silver's thinking of going and watching Megalopolis. 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 And you're going to go watch, or thinking of watching Joker 2, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about you, Johnny? What are you getting ready to watch? Any movies or any shows that you're excited about jumping into? Any entertainment stuff?
I'm completing the new season of Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Rings of Power. That's the name.
Rings of Power.
And it's been a bit up and down, but this season has been a lot better. They had a pretty cool story with Sauron and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to the conclusion there.
So if you were to rate Lord of the Rings, like as a show now, Lords of Power or Rings of Power, whatever the hell it's called, what would you give that? Like, what do you think of it as a series?
I'll have to say after the final episode, because a lot of stuff is now happening kind of all at once. So the last episode will be very important there. But if it's following the, momentum of the penultimate episode, it's very good. It's very high level. Like some of the battles is to the level of the movies where you have a legion of elves battling a giant group of orcs and like giants and all this type of stuff, So yeah, it's really incredible visually. And also this time because it already looked great season 1, but this time there's also a cool story with Sauron and the actual rings, because the funny thing with the first season, there were no rings, right? It's rings of power, and it was all the setup to begin working on the rings, kind of.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
the character Celebrimbor, which was explored a little bit in Shadow of Mordor, I think, or in maybe the first Mordor game.
Both Mordor games.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. He was the creator of the rings, and yeah, his interaction with Sauron is really enjoyable, really fun.
All right. But so, like, do you like any of the characters? Because I just feel, I don't know why, but every time I see it, everybody I see, there's nobody with character that I see.
It's pretty mixed, to be honest. Yeah, it is. I would say it is pretty mixed. There have been a couple that I like a lot. I've come to like the elf lady quite a bit, Galadriel.
In this versions of Galadriel, you like?
Yeah, I liked quite a lot. And then I liked... I'm really bad with the names because they're all like weird elf names, but you know.
Well, you can just say what not position.
The guy
that's a football game.
The guy that's played by Agent Smith in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Elrond.
Thank you.
Elrond.
Yeah, his actor was also excellent, I thought. I really enjoyed that. And then the actor for Celebrimbor was fantastic. You know, his interactions there are great. Some of the others are a bit more mixed. I don't have as many high points. There's one that's like Aragorn's ancestor that was also pretty solid, good, you know, like paladin style character. That's what I would say. Yeah, those are the highlights.
All right. And then for me, man, you know what? There hasn't been there. I posted in our Discord. There's like 24. I don't know what you'd call it. Not necessarily horror shows, but more like spooky shows that are coming, and some of those had some really good ideas that I'm excited for. They come more in the fall at the end of this, because I wanted to, you know, it is Halloween, so I figured this would be fun to talk about. And there was definitely some cool stuff there, but I am enjoying season 3 of From. I've definitely had a really good time with that, and it is honestly very. They upped where I didn't think they would, which is the gore. There's a couple parts where I'm like, damn, they really show some serious gore in this show. And I'm not I don't need to have gore, and I don't not need to have gore. But I was actually pretty impressed with where they went. And it's a good show to watch during the Halloween season. I actually think it was a really good time to release that show. And it's been phenomenal, man. I love sitting back and watching it. This will be the third. Well, I'm watching the latest season, but this will be the third rewatch of the seasons prior, and have just really enjoyed. You know, you don't know exactly what's going on, so it's a little like Lost, but there's some stuff that you start to pick up on. You're like, ooh, okay, okay. I sort of get the idea. Yeah. So
did they wrap up the full season, or at like the latest season?
No, they did that thing where they release it. I can't remember. It's like
weekly,
1 or 2, and then every 2 weeks or something. It's really weird. It's really, you know, probably to get watch time up or so. You know how it is. They probably, for all these, they're looking at what else is available, and I guess maybe they feel like they didn't have a bunch, so they're doing this one sort of petered out a little bit, or at least I can't find them. So I would assume they're sort of stretched out a little.
By the way, just someone said the stream is not showing up in the feed. It looks like it's unlisted. So just so you know, I don't know if you
that's
know,
what I said right at the starting. It is unlisted. It won't show. It won't switch.
All right.
No matter what I do in the background. But yeah. So what were we saying? Damn it. Anyway,
from season 3.
And moving to Halloween stuff, because I did want to talk a little bit about Halloween stuff. And we were asked in the Discord if there was any Halloween, like if there's any specific games you like for Halloween, you like for spooky times that you play during this time, or maybe even games that you're looking forward to. Like, are you guys going to do Silent Hill? No? Okay. What about you, Johnny?
It's a good question. I was thinking of doing Until Dawn because I like the original a lot. And if the reviews are good for this one, I'll probably pick it up and play it. I was a bit like, I didn't expect the full price tag, to be honest.
You didn't
That's
expect
the
the
main
full
thing.
price tag for Silent Hill?
For Until Dawn.
Oh, for Until Dawn. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, Silent Hill, I've never played any Silent Hill, so I don't know anything about the games. I'll look at reviews and see what it's like, and that might be something I jump into.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do Until Dawn. I'm gonna do Quarry again. I'm gonna do Bully.
Quarry was good. Yeah.
Bully has the Halloween. You know how Bully moves seasons forward?
Yeah.
And it's so dumb because it barely does anything.
They did it before Persona.
Yeah, they did. They did do it before Persona. So I'm going to jump into that. And I'm not a big, like, what's the series of games that are like, supposed, like you're in an insane asylum or something, you're a mental patient. They're the big ones that are popular. Outlast. Yeah, those kind of games do nothing for me, but like a side tangent game like Bully, something about that is more my style because it's got a nostalgic feeling to it. And then Supermassive's games are never super scary. They're never even really scary. They're like a, typical 1980s Scream. They're like Scream, I guess, is what I would say, because there's always a little bit of comedy. Anybody in chat? What games are you guys playing for the holiday season?
I think a favorite for me would probably at this point be Phasmophobia as like the definitive horror game that I've played. Just that game is such an amazing horror game because so much of its horror ties into the social multiplayer aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so enjoyable to take new players into that game. Like friends, like I had, like Lemon Streak's younger brother started playing it earlier this year with us, and like taking him in and his reaction to like meeting the ghosts for the first time when he's completely new, and then you have the localized voice chat where you just hear him screaming in the distance.
Yeah,
because the ghost did an event or something and scared the bejesus out of him. And like that entire dynamic is always fresh and always new, and it's always different. And it always like changes up in little ways where even though you're doing the same things, it can often feel different and varied. Just because you have that mix of both the randomized ghosts, the randomized things that it does, and then the randomized aspect of the social stuff, messing around with each other and all that.
Right.
It sort of ties into and creates an entirely unique experience in that game.
Lethal Company did a pretty good job with that too, with the using the voice, the localized, the how close you are. I think that kind of stuff is great. There's another game, Clive Barker's Undying. Clive Barker's Undying, I thought was just a fantastic horror. Again, not scary. It's not scary. They're not scary. They're just of the horror vein. At least they're not to me. They're, you guys. I'm not saying you guys find them scary in here, but people as a whole may find them scary. But
are there any games you do find scary that you played, like something that stuck with you?
No, but there's certainly events that do. And Silver and I've talked about this a ton. I think you and I've even years ago may have mentioned it. The big one for me isn't that the game is scary. It's when the game is not supposed to be. The game is generally not scary and then has something in it. So like the cradle disturbing from Thief, that level was like really off. The monkeys in System Shock scared the shit out of me in a way. Like there was something about them where I was just like, this is so weird to me. This is not what I expected. And the unexpected to me, probably because you just get older, you've seen a bunch of, matter of fact, what did we talk about right prior to coming into the podcast is you get you expect stuff from a show.
The unexpected and the unknown, right?
And
those are the two main sort of fear triggers.
Yeah, and that's happened to me in a comedy before, where a comedy will happen, but some character will have a weird face, like Jim Carrey's The Mask. I'm not saying that one, but if he, has a weird face, that I might be like, whoa, that was, super creepy. That kind of stuff works for me more. I did Sanitarium. I would say Silver would be the only one who might have played that. Did you ever play the 4-disc point-and-click adventure Sanitarium? Where you
I did not.
Okay.
But I was aware of it.
You were aware of it? Yeah, that one was... Okay, that one was pretty close because it was isometric, and somehow seeing the things around me was scarier than not seeing them. I know that sounds really weird, but when you don't see them, it's like, okay, I guess I go around every corner, and I'm like, there'll be a bad guy there, or there won't, and your brain is sort of resigned to it. But when you can see them, you're like, ooh, what's that?
Go ahead. Part of it is also a question of how you build it up in your own head, because I've played I've played Phasmophobia with people who have full-blown panic attacks from
During the game. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Soma's that way.
They can like to the point where they can barely breathe, and you have to like,
Goddamn.
and you basically have to stop and say, "No, okay, just calm down, relax," and like
Wow.
we're taking a break, like because this is clearly getting too stress-inducing.
Yeah, Soma was that way for a lot of people. I reviewed Soma, and I found Soma, just like the namesake of its drug, just sleep-inducing.
Yeah, I remember.
I couldn't. No matter what I tried, no matter what I did, I was just sitting there going like, "There's nothing here that's doing anything for me." But that's just for me. There were other things about it that were good. But the cool thing about that game is, or not cool thing about any game is that sometimes that a game will just pop up and it may hit somebody in the unnerving. And I think unnerving works really well. A game doesn't have to be scary. Yeah. If it's unnerving, that can also be great. You know, something Supermassive in particular, the casting of Frank Stone feels dramatically different than
stuff the most effective to get me scared or like creeped out.
You mean where it messes with your psychology, or the game's changing?
Type of stuff creeps me out quite a bit. And some of it is not, they're not explicitly showing you. You're almost like intuiting, you know, you get the vibe and then you start seeing, oh, okay, they are actually, you know, doing what you think. Yeah. So that type of stuff works really well for me.
Looking at chat here, I asked everybody in chat what were some of the games for Halloween that got them suffering. The Suffering was one of them. Rush of Blood on PSVR. Rush of Blood. Is that not Supermassive's game?
I'm not sure.
I feel like Rush of Blood might be Supernatural. I could be wrong. Castlevania. That's interesting. Let's see.
Alien Isolation is one people always
Alien
mention.
Isolation, people always mention.
Being hunted down.
Also Eternal Darkness.
Oh, somebody said the channel went weird. I don't know. It's been like this for
We're back.
Day.
I think we had a quick blip in the internet.
Alan Wake 2 DLC, Eternal Darkness. What about Shadow? No, not Shadow Man. That one was bad. Trying to think of older games that might have been scary.
Well, you said Rush of Blood. That is Supermassive.
I was right. Okay, that is Supermassive. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I just checked.
PSVR Supermassive game. That can't remember if I played that one. The guys who did Secret World did a PSVR game as well, a VR game. Might have been Bone. Yeah, I think Funcom did one about the because I feel like I reviewed this. It's been years, but there was about the carnival that's in Land 3, I think, in the MMO. There was a haunted carnival ride and stuff, but it's been ages since I played that. What about, have any of the truly horror-based games ever worked for you? Like the ones based on movies? Like Friday the 13th, The Thing. The Thing's getting a remake, but The Thing, did those work? Or what other? Did Jason ever, or sorry, not Jason, but did Freddy Krueger ever get a game? There was. Are you SNES game?
I think he got like
for too long ago
back then, like side scrollers.
And that's a long time ago.
But they had like tangential connections to the films. But other than that, I think it's mostly been cameos in games like Dead by Daylight and stuff.
I think you're right. Somebody here was saying Manhunt. I've been playing Dead Space Remake. I think Dead Space Remake is a really good.
Actually, that is a good one.
Yeah. It's a good one. Sky Days, $10 super chat. What's up? Howdy, partners. Changed my mind about waiting until Christmas. Sequel. What has been your gaming highlight this week? Thanks for the super chat. Sky Days, what's been the gaming highlight this week? That's a super chat question. Everybody in chat, you can answer as well. What's the highlight this week? Dude, wind blown, but I'll talk about it in a second. That's probably my highlight.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Rogue Trader DLC for Necro. That's cool. I'm glad, and I think they've really picked that game up as far as I remember. Like as far as I know, they patched that up.
That's pretty much the standard for Owlcat.
It's always
like
the standard.
Broken mess at release, and then
And that game was a mess. What about you guys? Anything? Well, I mean, we've already talked about what we've been playing. Yeah. Is that your highlights?
That's been my highlight for now.
If you're not a reviewer, I feel like your highlight is what you're playing mostly, by the way, just bear with me, because you don't have to get to the end of the game. So I feel like unless you're some kind of arbitrary sadist, for the most part, I would probably, if I wasn't reviewing, be like, I don't like this game, and I bounce to my highlight, whatever my highlight was.
With God of War, with regard to God of War Ragnarok, I never really played the DLC, the Valhalla roguelite DLC that released for it. So going to the PC version has sort of been a chance to get acquainted with it, and I've really enjoyed it. So
yeah, it's great.
It's so weird, guys, that Valhalla, Ragnarok, and then Ragnarok, Valhalla both chose to do Rogue,
right,
and both turned out to be awesome. And there is something magical about, and we can say what we dislike, blah, 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 blah. Like there's always issues with some of these games, but Valhalla's Ragnarok DLC was legitimately great, and then the God of War one's free, right?
Yeah,
I believe.
It was free.
Dude, that's just
and it was very
awesome.
Well fleshed out with even like, new lines and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. What were we gonna say, Silver? Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
just that like I really really enjoyed the combat in God of War Ragnarok, and the Valhalla expansion just feels like such a pure way of going through that, like kind of similar to like the trials and stuff, but in a much better context and much more entertaining way, I feel like. Especially because there generally aren't the same like timing constraints and whatnot that are there on like the trials and stuff that I don't really enjoy very much. Because to me, like the enjoyment of that combat system, it comes with like flowing it together. It doesn't come from like rushing through combat. It comes through flowing it together into like a sequence where you switch between like the axe, the blades, and the spear or whatever, and flow those into combos.
Yeah, I may check that out, man. I may jump back in because I played it a little bit. Was really happy with what I saw. Wicked Critter gifted 5 ACG Gaming Podcast memberships. Thank you very much, Wicked Critter. Sorry I missed that earlier. I apologize. It did not pop up. Chat is a little bit delayed for me. It's just the way it is today. I don't know. System Shock Remake. Multiple people are saying System Shock. Except Bry916 says Metaphor demo. But I am an Atlas simp. Yeah, that Metaphor is going to be an interesting... Metaphor is going to be an interesting one. That demo polarized a lot of people, man. The people are drawing lines in the sand. They're putting blue or red face paint on, depending on which side they are of this game. It is going to be a
What's interesting is
discussion.
Also like, even within one person, sometimes you hear ups and downs. Like, they loved one thing but didn't like another. Like I was telling you, I loved some stuff, but then other like parts of how it looked and stuff didn't grab me.
Oh, for sure. I'm just talking about it polarized people, like not within themselves. I'm saying, like that is one of those demos. Like
some
Stellar
people
Blade
are now very like
Stellar Blade did that, man.
You can't talk bad about it, or
or I can't say anything good about it, kind of stuff. But I'm with you. Some stuff I was like, oh okay, and then other stuff I was like, mm-mm. So it's gonna be one of those titles. It's definitely, which is so weird because. You could say Persona is technically one of those titles, but I don't believe it is. I think most people look at Persona and maybe they dislike an art style or something, but then they're like, okay, it's obviously good. I'm talking about open-minded people. For the most part, you look at it. But this one, in particular, the way it looks and some of the odd things that they've done has definitely sort of been like a weird splitting down the center. So that one's the oddity for me. Speaking of splitting down the center, Ubisoft may. Let's jump to that. So Ubisoft, if anybody knows, Ubisoft years ago had a really good highlight to their stock price. I can't remember the price, and I'm not going to go look, but it was it's cut dramatically down because of their issues that they've had lately. And they've had really good games, and they still have them. They have had really bombing games lately. And at one point, Tencent went in and helped them out by investing in the brothers. There's two sort of entities. There's the brothers, Guillemot. Those guys who have their own holdings, and then the Ubisoft. And now we're hearing rumors that Tencent wants to sort of work with Ubisoft in possibly going private, removing themselves from the public sphere, buying back into Ubisoft and removing them from basically all the stuff we see, all the stock stuff, and sort of getting them back on track, I guess I would say. Back on track's a little weird because they're certainly on track for some of their games, but they've definitely had issues. We've seen all the delays for games. We've seen Skull and Bones take forever, Beyond Good and Evil sitting somewhere. But then you have things like Rainbow Six. You have other games of theirs that continue to run and seem to be doing fine. You have Valhalla, which did insanely good, but you have Shadows that's been delayed. And I was looking at this so that people know there was an original deal, so there's a little bit of an oddity here. The original deal stated Tencent could not, until 2030, buy in to Ubisoft any more than they already had. That was the deal that the brothers stated they would make. So this idea of, first of all, them buying Ubisoft, that's not true. That is not what the deal is. The deal, and it wasn't said that in the article. The article is about basically somehow combining their finances in a way that allows for some investment from Tencent and from Ubisoft having to worry about the stock stuff and just sort of possibly removing their, what would you call it, their being beholden to stock, the stock people who are consistently asking for a particular number of returns each year, each quarter, that kind of stuff. And looking into it, Tencent, Embracer, Tencent in particular, has done a ton of investing. This is an interesting discussion, too, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but Tencent just recently, within the last 6 months, also stated something that I thought was interesting. Two things. One, they don't feel their game investments have done very well, and they're looking to broaden their horizons. This was prior to Ubisoft. The second was that they really do not feel their Japanese investments did well. And in fact, they were looking at branching out from and away from there and going to others. So those two combined with the idea that Ubisoft might be more open to some kind of joint, we wouldn't even know what this would be called, but some kind of joint investment. I mean, I think that might work. Oregon Fresh says, crazy concept, make a good game, your stock won't plummet. That's so untrue. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
I just talked to a developer from a game that
perception of value works.
It isn't. I just talked to a developer who their game got a 10 and they are not employed and the company is gone. So yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Stock investments in particular, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up. By a simple mention of bad news, Ubisoft stock went down 10%. By good news, up 30. There is a problem. That is a fucking disaster. That is not the volatility any company wants, especially when both of these, by the way, that happened are not yet factually proven stories. Even the old one. So you were talking about somebody saying, I talked to someone, and I can't tell you who they are. They've got a good source. These are people who usually know what they're doing, what they're saying. But they're like, I've talked to somebody, this bad thing's happening. Boom, stock gets impacted. Ton of YouTubers, we need to talk. The end of the world. This company is finished. And they get hammered. No wonder some of these companies are like, hey, let's. And by the way, this is not removing any blame from Ubisoft. I'm literally talking about how the stock market works and how these companies that are pushed by it, unless they're in some way immune due to successes prior, it can be rough on them. And I don't know. I'm not for it because I don't like Tencent. It's not that I don't like them. It's just, there's been some history.
Yeah,
with
we had similar conversations back when Vivendi tried to buy Ubisoft, but I think.
What do you think about Vivendi versus Tencent?
I think back then I was mostly for the Guillemots retaining ownership of Ubisoft. I felt that was important. But so much water has passed under that bridge since then.
Agreed.
Honestly, not really necessarily in terms of like games, but just management stories that have sort of come out from Ubisoft in regards to the Guillemot leadership style and how that's sort of infected the company, I guess you could say, like culturally in resulting in huge cultural problems for like workplace well-being and stuff like that for employees there that are still there, I feel like. And I like, would that be better with Tencent? Probably not. But I can't help but feel like there needs to be some change in management at Ubisoft. Whatever that change is going to look like, I don't know. But could that come with an increased share for Tencent or whatever? Maybe. But it's also hard for me to picture the Gimos giving up control.
Mm-hmm.
But also at this point, maybe they're so sick of the whole media circus that they would.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was quite interesting. We were in the Discord and we were breaking down the stock, and when Valhalla just exploded, the sale, it was just incredible sales on it, and long term for that one, which was weird. The stock didn't go up much. And one of the things we had discussed is that was pretty good proof it was already overvalued at some point. You know, there wasn't much of a budge there, and especially overvalued when you consider how much money they're putting out for these other games. And we've seen issues with games. I would also be interested to see what management style changes if you don't have to worry about stocks, because we do know they do. I've worked at companies that have been on both, and with one company that switched, and I did see a pretty big switch internally. Some of them positive, by the way. Some of the switch is positive, some negative. So, yeah, man, I mean, dude, I don't know. Everybody's been gunning for Ubisoft for so long. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's so weird, too, because, yeah, when you first were on the podcast, Silver, like this had to have been 5 years ago. The Vivendi thing was big for a long time. Remember, they were nipping at him? They were nipping at him. We were like, oh, you know, here we go. This is going to be a possible thing. And then maybe they used Tencent to get out of that.
Because back then it wasn't just like a buyout, or it was a hostile takeover.
It was a hostile takeover, yeah, which you never want. I think you probably never want. Like that doesn't sound good. We'll get your question in 1 second, Wicked. Just let us finish. We're going to wrap up the Ubisoft thing. But so long story short, yeah, Tencent, and this is a rumor right now. We'll have to see what happens, but if this does happen and it results in them being able to pull out and just go private and sort of remove themselves from the up and down and all the reporting and all of the people demanding particular things and just letting them play games, and then maybe some reporting to Tencent or some kind of, you know, overarching idea towards management changes that they need, that would, I can't really see that being a negative. We do know they're doing that internal investigation, but I do want to point out the internal investigation is a little bit like me looking at my chore list and deciding if I want to do them. That internal investigation is within their group. Yeah. It's not like it wasn't what everybody thought at the first. So that one is less impactful than this Tencent.
What do you guys think all of this means for the new AC game coming out? I did hear from a friend that he got his pre-order refunded without him asking. No,
they stated clearly they were refunding.
They were refunding. Yeah. I saw that online. So, yeah, well, do you think it still comes out as expected in February? Pretty much.
Yeah. In fact, my guess is whatever stuff they were doing would be contingent on them trying to make sure they could work as hard as possible to get Shadows out. Everything that I've heard and from people is that people are very happy with that game. There's bugs that they need to fix, but the actual core stuff and the combat and the things like that kind of, they're very happy with what they've created on that side. It's more about it's
funny how those aren't reflections of each other, right? Like the actual software can be good, but then you have all these problems.
And you and I've played games like that where you're playing a game, it's buggy, and you're still like, but it's also pretty fun,
It's also interesting if you relate it to, I think, to the movie industry, where very often you have movies that are done, but they won't be released for 2 years.
Yeah.
They can sit on the shelf for a distributor or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though they're done.
Yeah.
But they won't get released in cinemas or anywhere for 2 years sometimes. Or more even.
Or ever, like Batgirl or Catgirl or Catwoman.
Yeah. Or they'll get a brief release and then they'll get deleted. Hellboy, in fact, was coming to theaters and then they switched that to digital, right?
Didn't they just the new one? I'm pretty sure that one
haven't heard.
completely switched its how it was even going out to consumers. So, and didn't Scarlett Johansson sue Marvel because they also switched hers to digital? That was during COVID, I believe. But I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
I think so.
that
Yeah.
was a lawsuit, right? Yeah. Yeah, man. Dude, they need to investigate all this stuff, sort of identify where they're going. I'm a big fan of that. So they announced Beyond Good and Evil, right? So that's on them. You could say it's on them. But I'm also a big fan of if a company just wants to work on something that's not impacting me, I say let them work. I have no issue with Beyond Good and Evil. Just sitting there, doing whatever they're doing, trying to figure out what they want to deliver. But when you look
Chipping away.
yeah, dude, or coming up with
Yeah.
technology, trying to identify stuff, yeah, no issue whatsoever. In fact, I celebrate that. I celebrate delays, technically, in a way, because it means the developer looked and said, this cannot pass, you know, like, you shall not pass is the Gandalf of moments. I'm fine with that. But what we have been seeing, the other stuff, buggy games we've seen. I mean, dude, it's so weird, guys. When I review a lot of the Ubisoft games, it's actually sort of depressing because many of them, other than like Far Cry 6, was just sort of bad. A lot of their games have been enjoyable, but there's just a lot of crap going on. There's a lot of bugs. There's a lot, you're almost always looking at it going, man, why isn't there another 3 or 6 months here? Why isn't there, another couple months to get these patches and get this thing shored up so that it can hit the way it wants to hit? And then we can talk about the acting in the game. We can talk about all that kind of stuff. We can talk about if Valhalla's bloated. But it is a weird, I got to tell you guys, when I'm reviewing a big Ubisoft game, like, I wouldn't say there's a special attention but I definitely sit back and I'm like, okay, there's a lot to test. All open world game have a lot, but Ubisoft in particular likes to throw a lot of shit, at you. Yeah. A lot of chaos going on. So next up, we got Wicked Critter, $10 super chat. In the last podcast, it was said a DLC was actually an expansion. Wonder which game that was. My question is, what do you guys consider a DLC and an expansion? They've seemed to change over time. I might be misremembering. No, we might have said one was. I think, what did we discuss? Because we'll never know. But DLC could be a horse and some stuff and a house. To me, expansion usually expands the land. We see those in Diablos where it's like, here's a new location to go to, here's a new class. To me, those are pretty close to being expansions.
The line is blurred at times, and games push it. Like, Witcher 3 DLC, those were expansions, right? They were
those were
new
expansions.
Areas,
those
like completely new,
but they were also
quest lines,
downloadable content.
Right, so that's where, sure, it's all technically downloadable content.
Exactly.
I think the connotation now is for DLC, we expect something on the smaller side in comparison. Right. A lot of cosmetic stuff, certainly. And insofar as you get new areas, those would probably not be very big. And then expansions would be full on, But I think the reality, I don't know about you guys, I haven't heard the term expansion that much. Even when we talk about, Shattered Space, another super chat asking about it, that's been called a DLC. We can say whether or not you guys think that's appropriate, but I think we're just saying DLC nowadays.
My generation who still hold on to that word.
Right.
Yeah. Like largely. I think there's also a tendency to look back at expansions with rose-colored glasses as being these large, significant things when very often they weren't. Like, they could often be flimsy, even though they were printed on a disc. Like some of the packs, I've often mentioned The Sims, right? With the stuff pack, where you only got like a couple of dresses or whatever on a disc to add to your game. There were strategy games that only had like a couple of like scenario missions or whatever on a disc for their expansion or whatever you wanted to call it, or mission pack, or like there were all kinds of words, all kinds of definitions. Sometimes it was expansion pack, sometimes it was mission pack, sometimes it was story pack, sometimes it was something else. So these are terms that have always sort of bled into each other and have always sort of blurred the lines, where I think it's up to each person to sort of make up in their own mind what
I actually agree with Silver. I think that it's not always up to the company to decide. I think that people probably want an easy categorized, easily referenced term, and those are gone.
Of course,
and they're gone because of the excellence of digital downloads, which are great for some things. You know, it's great to get an extra class for your game, but there's some of it is on the consumer to decide, you know, what it really is to them. I mean, a lot of times to me, an expansion means a new place. I've heard Shattered Space internally be discussed as an expansion. I have never heard it be discussed as like just DLC, that internally. But that doesn't mean anything when it gets out, and if like let's say the official company calls it an expansion in their trailer. If 7,000 YouTubers do a combined 100 billion views and they're all calling it DLC, guess what it's going to be known for? DLC.
Yeah.
So it's really up to the consumer. There is no safe wording anymore. It's all downloadable. I think in the old days, expansions, it was great because you could buy it. It's all perception, yeah. And it's all, some of it's going to be up to, I mean, it is just, well, not all, some of it. You're spending your money. It's up to you. And even when I discuss things, I usually look at like what they've called it. Then I'll look at what I got if I'm reviewing it, which I don't review a lot of those, but I will if I get a chance. And then you have to decide sometimes in the review to actually state, this is more like DLC, you know, or this is big enough to be an expansion. It would be questionable to, at times, if you look at Ragnarok, to not call it an expansion. There's times when you look at I'm assuming that Valhalla called their Rogue DLC. Maybe they called that an expansion too. See, that's the thing, because it's a big gameplay change, new location. Yeah, right. It's up to the consumer. Yeah. Like it's I don't think we can win anymore. And like Silver said, people hold on to terms because they're comfortable, but the terms are completely colored and weighted now. But good question, Wicked. Next up, JP MacDon44 says, I just jumped in. Any thoughts on Shattered Space? Has anyone been playing it? Disregard if you already discussed. I will rewind. I have played a little bit of that one, but I was reviewing. Have you guys jumped into that at all? Neither one of you guys have, right? No.
No.
Pretty much everybody in the Discord seems to like it. I haven't heard anybody actually complain about it. Now that I think about it, a couple people are streaming it, like the side quests. I didn't hear a lot about bugs, though I know there are some, especially if you have a modded game. I know the reviews, because one of the guys in there was saying that the reviews weren't great, but that he was, well, it wasn't just him. It was that they were enjoying it, so it's a little hard to ascertain exactly where that one is. I'll jump into it at a later time because I'm really interested in going to that specific place. I jumped in, I saw it, I was like, okay, it works and runs. Maybe I need to, you know, like save the state of the game so it doesn't update. But I
was watching some people play it, and I like the look of the new area a lot. Mm-hmm. The planet, you know, it's got some really cool color to the sky box, or like, you know, the landscape and everything. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So I thought they did some pretty good work on the visuals of the area, at least.
So some of the people answering the question, looks like Lost and the Damned might have been the one we were talking about. That might have not even been last week. That might have been earlier. We were discussing if that was expansion or DLC. I was asking people, Cortland says, or both. DLC to me is cosmetics or weapons, but expansion means full-blown new location, or at the very least new story, enemies, gear. Cortland also says Elder Scrolls Horse Armor is DLC, but Witcher Blood and Wine is expansion. Dylan J says an expansion implies to me that the size of it is rivaling the base game. That's interesting, Because other than like 3 examples, most expansions do never
Not
go above the base game.
like
So
maybe
Probably
half
not.
at most.
half of the size, or do you mean half of all
half the
expansions?
size.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, dude, we got to talk. If you okay, yeah, half definitely. You rarely hear about him like blowing out the entire size being larger. That would be great though. I would enjoy the hell out of that. Josh says Half-Life Opposing Force was an expansion. Starfield Brood War was an expansion.
Yep.
Man, it's been a long time. I haven't.
And Blue Shift as well for Half-Life.
Gloomy Dude says ACG Bethesda shill before once again can tell he's talking around the question, but how can you miss the huge negativity around Starfield? I'm out. That tag, Gloomy Dude, checks out. Gloomy Dude, if I haven't played the game, I can only tell you what other people are saying in my Discord. Calm down, Sonny boy. Sid, I just realized. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Sid Hearth, 449 Ruples. He says, do you think Call of Duties need to stop releasing every year?
Well, that's almost a business question. Does it work? And it seems like it does. There's no reason for them to stop. It's almost like a FIFA. It works.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we might not hit all of those or skip a lot of them here in our group. But the fact is, those are hugely popular, right?
Yeah,
Well,
so I think.
Go ahead.
I think it depends on what you frame the question for. Like, why would it need to stop? Would it need to stop for the sake of increasing profitability? In which case, probably not, right?
Right.
But would it need to stop in order to like revamp it or do something different with it, or try something new or whatever? Possibly. I mean, that could maybe make a substantive qualitative difference to the game doing that. So I think those are 2 different discussions, depending on how you frame that question.
The weird thing is, when it comes to Call of Duties, I do feel like they don't always deliver the best campaign, right? They don't always deliver the best zombies, and they don't always deliver the best multiplayer. But a lot of times they're delivering enough there that somebody feels like their money is worth it every year. Like, we have people who purchase them every year and are very happy every year.
Yeah.
This isn't NFL where it's the same everything other than a trade roster change. These are usually different worlds, different campaign, different locations. So would I like them to wait a year? I might, but there's been so many times, guys, where people have thought that the magic fix was waiting a year. And we have seen it multiple times, that it is not a guarantee. So the idea is, I would say, no. I would say I would like them to all meet together and say, from now on, we have to make sure if we have a campaign, it is a certain length. And it can't be like Battlefront's, what were those vignettes? The one that they did the one time that you dropped in, you died, then you jumped to the other guy's life. Full real campaigns. I would love for them to come up with a baseline and say, at minimum, we do need to deliver to the single player guy, and we need to deliver to the zombie, because we're the ones packaging all 3. We need to deliver a base unit to the zombies people as well as the multiplayer people, and that's our base. And then every time we make a game, we build from that. And if it goes longer than a year, great. And if it doesn't, great. Like, it's fine. I could have them skip a year. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Let's see. Who is going to stop them? Nathan says. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I guess when you look at it, nobody's really going to stop them. And like I said, it's not football. It's not FIFA. It's not basketball. UFC does this. It's not the same thing. Those could definitely work with a delay of a year. I would like to see them hold off a year and instead give you a $19 or $9 roster update.
Yeah.
I would love that. I would want to see it. Curiosity's sake. I think that would be very fun. Okay, we got through those. Thank you very much, everybody, for your thoughts on those. I appreciate it. Those were actually really good. I hadn't thought about the DLC versus expansion discussion in a while. I asked everybody for some questions in our Discord. We'll go go through them real quick. Cloudcutter says, could we see MetaQuest 3 in the same position as PSVR 2? I'm hesitant to buy hardware now, especially VR. I would not worry about MetaQuest. They sell to a certain group. They're Facebook. They're one of the only games in town when it comes to like a good, solid, like, I guess, baseline for VR. No, I don't see them going the way. PSVR launched with nothing. Snuggle says, the day before devs, Fantastic are back with a new Kickstarter game called Escape Factory. Why would they not at least rebrand in something? Looks like 2K has been pledged of a 15K goal. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
I don't know. Dude. Snuggles has the same question I do. At least change your name. I know that sounds weird. It sounds like I'm trying to give him criminal advice, but what the hell were they thinking, man? Like,
that's what the other guy did back with the H1 whatever game.
Oh, really? Changed company name or something?
The Daisy copycats, who also had to,
man, there were so many of those.
Shut down and take the game off Steam.
But I mean, it's not only that. It's like, dude, they got, it was a disaster. They got called on it. The returns came in.
Something or other he was called, I think.
For the zombie one.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops! Sorry, I hit my desk. Yeah, I don't know. I saw
a new studio with a new name and stuff, I think.
I saw it, Snuggles, and I don't know what to say about it, man. It's crazy, like crazy that they. I mean, in a weird way, you got to give them kudos for having the nuts to be like, we're the same people.
Yeah.
I know that sounds bad to say.
We're having another crack at it.
We're having another crack. And they even said, we're going to learn from our mistakes, or we're going to take responsibility for everything. And my tweet was just simply, who the fuck else would take responsibility? Of course it's yours.
Yeah.
Like,
what's the alternative? Not take, like...
Yeah, I know some PR person helped him write that, but I was just like, dude, maybe that just goes to show the level of ire everybody has towards that kind of stuff, which is absolutely right to have. One Nangle, or A1 Nangle says, Nintendo said they're against using AI technology. Will this continue to make them special, or are they missing an opportunity as every other major studio mentions using AI in their future development processes? Will it make them special? Will it make...
I think you need to take that statement probably with a grain of salt.
Yeah. You mean Nintendo saying that?
I don't think you should take that as an absolute statement.
Not only that, Silver, but there's so many companies working for them. There's like side games, things that are Switch exclusive. They would have to hammer down on all those guys and be like, you can't use AI for anything. And we're now seeing the Deadlock developer from Valve stating that he had used ChatGPT to help him figure out the matchmaking, I believe, is what he said. And he basically straight up just said, I'm going to post every single win I get from AI, because some of this stuff is amazing. So there's already a battle internally. Sony has stated openly that they're going to continue to use it. Microsoft's going to use it. Nintendo is special because of their people and the way they put things together, and I don't see that changing too much with AI.
Yep.
Now that I think about it, right now at least. Knucklehead says, what is you guys' favorite Pokemon?
I'm the last person you should ask that question to. I don't know any. I mean, I know Pikachu, and I know Charizard or whatever, the dragon or
Charizard or something.
Yeah.
Charizard.
Those are the only two I know.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest. Gyarados was cool. Was like the giant like water snake thingy with the angry face. That's pretty cool.
Honestly, I think probably I've been most exposed to Pokemon through like watching like Robot Chicken sketches. That's probably been it.
Do you know how I know most of the time? Memes.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a meme and I'll be like, okay, yeah. I mean, years ago I played it
popular culture in general, yeah.
Yeah. But I got to admit, I don't even have an answer for that, because it would be the same as these guys.
Do you guys know the starter ones like Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander?
I think if you would, I think I would know Squirtle.
Robot Chicken, but that's literally.
Yeah. And I know it because it sounds like something that happens if you laugh too hard and you had really bad teriyaki the night before. Like a Squirtle. That's the
Yeah.
only reason I know it. It's just goofy names. You know, the
Yeah.
occasional goofy name. Yeah, so that's not really, I guess, not for us. Sorry about that, Knucklehead. We don't really have any good answers, except for Johnny. Sorry, I don't want to skip you. Do you have one?
Yeah, well, I said Gyarados. There's some really fun ones like Snorlax, which is the big fat one that
Okay,
blocks
that's
your
another
path.
one I remember. Thank you, Snorlax.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. You need to like play a flute or something to get him to wake up. Otherwise, he's always sleeping. Gengar, the ghost one, looked really wicked. Like the design was amazing. They had some good designs. Have to give them that.
Yeah, they definitely did. Chance, what's up, buddy? $10 super chat. Cloud Cutter here. Hope you guys are having a great day. Love the glasses, Johnny.
Cheers.
I have no clue what he's saying because I have Johnny's face covered up right now. Oh, the gunner glasses. Yeah. Yeah, got to protect those eyes, man.
I see how it is. You cover up my face, huh?
I covered
Look
it
at
up
me
so I can
while-
ask
look at
questions.
me
They
while-
matter more than you. Look at me while you answer me. I can see. All I had was your nothing. That was going to sound way too dirty. Anyway, now I can see your eyes and your mouth. There we go.
Wow.
Please tell me your favorite Power Ranger. That will not be happening for sure. Let's see. Next up, what's the rarest drop or item you guys have got in a game? This is from Dev Guy. That actually quite interested me because I've been playing games for so long and I have so many memories of not even really getting the best drop in a game, but getting a drop I really wanted and finally being like, oh,
Ooh.
finally got what I wanted. Weirdly enough, it's not the best drop. There's a gun in Division that I got. I'll tell you, I'm going to switch this. What's the worst drop or best drop? Okay. So it can be worst or best, or maybe even the most disappointing or the most fun to play drop you ever got. I got one in Division 2, guys, that was so trash. I saw this picture online of this gun, and I was like, dude, I want that. The gun looked wicked. I was like, wow, you know, and we were all playing it in the Discord. I'm like, I really want that gun. And I got it, and it was the most disappointing drop I've ever got. See, I think I remember those more than the good ones. Because the good ones are
like
usually a
pea
series
shooter.
of improvable steps. Yeah, dude, it shot like a pig. So it was super slow. It was like bonk, 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 bonk. Didn't have the greatest clip reload. It looked good, but it was one of those times that the moment you fired it, I was like, damn it, this is not what I was hoping for, and immediately dropped it. Do you guys have any good ones?
I had a really good one in Dark Souls the first time I played because I got a lucky drop from one of those like Black Knights, and you had a small chance of dropping their armor.
Great sword. Or,
Also the great sword and stuff. And I got both because I was running, and there were several in that like final segment of the game. And I actually got not the I don't know if it was the great sword or like one of the other variants. They have like different weapons, but I got that and like a really cool piece of armor that also happened to be very good, but looked wicked. And
Excellent. What about you, Silver? Any that you remember, good or bad?
Not really, I don't think. It doesn't really come up in my memory.
And you're not playing those kind of games much.
The looter style.
Right? I am, but the loot doesn't stick in my memory as particularly notable. The loot isn't what I remember, unfortunately. So I couldn't really. No, I'm not having anything pop up, unfortunately.
Well, I think that's fair because, like I said, when I get something good, usually in a game, it's usually an iterative step. It's not like, you know, there's been the occasional game where I've got something amazing, but I think I purposely don't like that a little bit because if I do, I'll have a tendency to focus on that weapon at the exclusion of others, and I'm more of a weapon whore. I like jumping around. So if I get a really good weapon, sometimes it sort of truncates the experience of getting stuff because I'm like, oh, I'm getting other stuff, but I've already got something I love.
I mean, the worst grind experiences I've had for unlocking gear have been from Warframe, probably trying to unlock new frames for that game. Like I actually quit the game because of that.
Oh, did you? For a while.
Yeah, like there were 2 frames in particular that I had tried to unlock manually without buying them, and they were Mesa, and to get to Mesa, you had to do a mission Like her parts would only drop from a mission that you had to build using resources that you could only get from a mission that got triggered once a day throughout the week.
Oh, gotcha.
So you had to build the mission, and then when you then played the mission, you would get Mesa's drops. But to build Mesa, you needed 3 parts. So you also needed the right parts to drop. So there was a grind for the grind for the grind, like a triple grind for that grind. And it ended up taking me, I think, like 3 weeks to unlock her. By the end of which I just didn't even really feel like playing her all that much. And then there was another one with Limbo where he had a part that dropped like from a defense mission, and I had to play that defense mission like 200 times. Not kidding, to get that part to finally drop. And with the Hydroid, I needed a part from a boss that just wouldn't drop either. And I kept killing that boss for, I don't know, 150 times or something before I finally got the last piece for his frame. And then I quit. Like,
that's why sometimes knowing something drops from a particular character is worse. You know?
Right.
It really just, it sort of truncates that fun. Nathan says Black Knight, Greatsword, and Halberd. A lot of people are saying Borderlands. Borderlands definitely at first I was really into.
Yeah.
And
they had some fun weapons.
And then once I realized like sort of how the randomization worked, I really stopped enjoying that. And I didn't dislike the game. I just that loop. I loved seeing the stuff exploding, and there was the occasional in there.
Yeah, but, setting stuff on fire, and
yeah. I liked all that. I got out of that grind bit, which is weird because most people would say, "What is in the game if you don't do that?" To me, Borderlands was fun with friends. Like it was just
and I would say they played around with more crazy designs in earlier games, like Borderlands 2 and stuff.
For example, as they moved forward.
Yeah, it just became more like normal guns, pretty much, like in the latest one. In Borderlands 2, there was one weapon that instead of sounding like a gun, it was just someone screaming, and it was the Spanish gun. The joke is that Spanish people scream when they speak. And so the gun was like, someone screaming. So anyway, they got a lot sillier with the weapons, which was pretty fun whenever you picked up something super unexpected.
Wizard of Smoke.
There was also a talking gun in that game as well, I remember. That could
like a sentient one?
Yeah.
Wizard of Smoke said Starfield, he hated cracking an expert lock and it was weak ammo at the end. That's the thing, man. What one person treasures is not the same as somebody else. So for whatever reason, a person might put that six rounds in that safe, and you just got to realize that. But it is funny that you mentioned that, because that's definitely something I've heard from a lot of people.
Like, and that's happened to me when like you invest 6, picks to like open a lock.
Yeah.
And you have all the perks and everything, and you get some rounds, or you get like absolutely not worth it.
Yeah.
Well, just something super basic.
Let's move on from there and talk about Silent Hill 2 reviews. So I'm going to open up, we'll go to OpenCritic this time. Let's look at this. So OpenCritic, I like them. If you like Metacritic, you can feel free to go there and talk and walk along. But the reason why I like OpenCritic is they do take worded reviews and they merge it in. So people who use worded reviews like myself and they also have some smaller channels there, and they're also not weighted. Metacritic, unless something has changed, because I just checked and it looks like it's still this way, certain review channels are weighted, meaning like if IGN gave a game a 7 and everyone else gave it an 8, the IGN score would actually weigh more, dragging it down, than like 2 or 3 bringing it up. We can argue about longevity and all that stuff at a different time. Silent Hill 2 on OpenCritic is rated as mighty. I think they go mighty weak, strong. They have some different wording there. Top critic average
Wow.
is 88. So the average is 88. 91% of critics recommend. The reason why that is there, I believe, is because it is taking those words like verbal, like mine, buy, as a recommend. So 91%.
Oh,
Not bad. So Game Rant gave it a 9 out of 10. Eurogamer gave it a 5 out of 5. So, like,
damn, that's really
they're giving it really
up
good
there.
scores. Yeah, and I spent some time reading up on these reviews, and so it is a remake, right? And yet a great deal of it is the same, but what they did was, if there are locations, because the technology in the day, they couldn't go into every room or building that you saw. So a lot of those buildings would be closed off in the city or in the town. So what they've done is they've changed some ways to do some puzzles. They've changed some ways to get to some places, and they've also opened up buildings for encounters inside the buildings. That to me is a good remake, where they took a lot of what was in the original, including the plot beats are identical, but they've added ways to get there being different, and they've changed it up for new and old, or for old prior players, and then new players, of course, wouldn't know that. What's cool about this is changing it up for old players doesn't mean anything if it's bad. It doesn't appear to be, because new players who've never played Silent Hill 2 also have enjoyed it and scored it quite high. Graphically, seems to have really good reviews. Performance, it seems to be good. Also, the audio seems to be very good. The tense, if you're into the, man, what's Silent Hill's be the vibe, the slow, like overarching heaviness that Silent Hill, evokes. Seems like this is the game for you. What I haven't seen is length. Anybody in chat, you can pop off on what you've heard for the length of the game. That was the one thing that I saw multiple people not explaining, which I found interesting, because I think I read 5 reviews. None of them described how long the game took. I don't think that was a purposeful omission. I legitimately don't. Not on this one. I think with those reviews, they would probably have said, if it was short, here's why I still think it's worth it. They would have added some context, especially some of the reviewers I'm seeing review it. But yeah, it's doing really well. So to me, I'm really happy it did that. I think Nathan says he heard about 15 to 20 hours, which is a great time for a game like this. I think longer would probably have been too long for me. But yeah, man, like, it's nice to see.
I did see also from Nathan in chat, he was saying, I do wonder how many people reviewing it play the original, and I would probably only want to read reviews by those who had. And I thought that was an interesting thought, because for me, it would almost be the opposite.
It would be the opposite for me too.
I would, because I'm not a big Silent Hill, fan. I haven't played it myself. I do want to check it out, but I would be really interested, like someone with without any frame of reference going into it, as a game in 2024, is it fun? That type of approach, without any baggage of like, hey, I used to love this game, and I love to see it in this new light. Just sort of more objective, perhaps.
Well, I mean, to me, if this was 4 years ago, like we're seeing with Until Dawn, 4 or 5, whatever that turned out to be, it's longer for that one, but we're getting Horizon remake or remaster, that kind of stuff. You could, I think, definitely saying, hey, this is only 4 years old, so let's talk about both. But a game like this, no, I wouldn't care at all. I think that people, unless they played it last week, as their first time, I don't even trust my own memories of a game 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And I don't really see caring too much about the current. In fact, most people who play this, all those changes are, how are they working today? And they're trying to bring it into today. They even did that. They said we adjusted some combat, just like Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered did. They've adjusted it for today. The people who I read seem like the combat is stepped up for today. It still feels like the character is not a gunsmith. He's not out there, or a gunslinger. He's not out there, whipping 6 guns out at any moment, but he can hold his own somewhat. I mean, we saw the same with Alan Wake, too. So it's, to me, he doesn't have to be amazing to control. He can still feel like a guy, which is what Silent Hill's entire story was about. It was a dude. It wasn't a guy who had special anything. Yeah. So Yeah, I don't. But I get that if you want to. But it's the same way that I saw a lot of people with the Final Fantasy remake, where I'm just like, dude, to me, I just do not care at all. If I would still trust a review if somebody says Final Fantasy remake is good, and I didn't play the original. I'd be like, okay, because you're playing this one now. The original is on a system I don't even own anymore. So, but you can track whatever you want. You know, if that appeals to you, then you can find reviews from reviewers that I'm sure will state right at the starting, I played the original. But I'm looking here, man. So if anybody's thinking about getting it, man, super successful for them. Blooper Team can now be Bloober Team again. They can get back to their original name. I can't call them Blooper Team anymore. It seems like, looking here, man, it seems like it's done really well. The one person I see comparing it to Alan Wake 2, I know that's a weird comparison, now that I think about it, but they're comparing it. They're saying,
it's not that weird.
Well,
both survival horror.
To me, it's really weird, but I think it's because one is one guy alone with just monsters. The other one's like a big budget. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because I agree with you and I don't. But yeah, what I was just gonna say was they're stating that Alan Wake has the overarching like presentation better than Silent Hill 2, but that they enjoy the somber feel of Silent Hill 2. So, and they're saying they're both in the same genre as well. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, man, good for them. Damn. So again, 88 for percentage and 91 for people recommending it. So Silent Hill 2, man, that's awesome. I'll be honest, man. I didn't know how it was going to do. Like, I was very curious.
Especially after the footage we saw. I don't know if you remember when we were commenting, like, on what we saw in the recent shows and stuff. We didn't think it looked particularly good or exciting.
Some parts looked, well, never exciting. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, never exciting. Yeah, I don't think that game's trying to be it, right? I don't think Silent Hill's ever going to have an exciting part. It's going to have like tense, stressful, but like truly exciting. Well, I mean, for me, maybe exciting means something different now that I think about it. But yeah, good for them, regardless. Blooper Team no more. They're back to being Blooper Team. It's good for them. I'm very happy. Now, at the same time, let's see if Until Dawn has got reviews. Until Dawn remake, right? Is it just straight up remake? Okay, here we go. Is that not out yet still?
I think it is. I saw someone playing today.
Man, there is a lot of these games coming out with no reviews. It is really, really, really weird. I don't know what's going on, but man, let me.
Yeah, it should be out.
Dawn
October
remake,
4th. It should have released today.
It wasn't out a couple hours ago, but it's probably out now.
The Steam release is usually here at 10, 1900 our time or 10 a.m. your time.
Okay, understood.
Is the usual Steam release.
Yeah, so it is out now, but as you say, we don't see anything on open.
Yeah, I'm not, so just so everybody knows what I'm talking about a little bit. When we were discussing reviews, which I usually get Sony games if I ask, the code was only going to be available at the moment it went live. So that doesn't mean anything. It just can mean that they're just that's what they're doing at that time, or they don't feel it's ready right up until they've got some patches. But I'm not seeing any open critic score for it either. Meaning, man, when I go online, I'm seeing reviews from companies I've never seen before too. At all. Technopedia and Game 8. Those might have been people who got it off the street, because I believe that one was also leaked. I believe it was on a like store shelves maybe. Yeah.
I did watch someone play it for some time today, like I said, and I thought it looked great. I'm excited to play it again, but it's kind of hard to tell the visual differences, because I thought it looked great already. That's one of those titles where I thought the original looked great, like very like photorealistic.
The only thing I saw was they changed one of my favorite characters in the game to what can only be described as like Broomhilda, like some Viking girl with ponytails, which she originally really didn't have. And I know that sounds weird, but when you see a change like that, I think her character, it was her as the actress. This is not carrying the lines of like the weird shit that happened with Star Wars. This is where they went in and added hair and stuff. It was this odd thing where her look from the original game fed my idea of her. You know, like there was an overarching feel of her, and that changed. So now I'm even more interested to play the game because I want to see why they would change her. So there was almost a very it's hard to describe on this character in particular because it depends on how you played it. Now that I think about it, people might be playing this for the first time. So I guess I don't want to say too much. But yeah, there was a couple changes. And I'm hearing that there's some issues with performance, but I'm always hearing that. So with every game.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know. But I'll jump into it. I'm probably the only one who will play that right away because I'll probably play it today. Unless, Johnny, are you playing it today?
Not today, no.
Yeah, because you're satisfied.
I did see some issues on PS5. So some cutscenes getting judder, where it kind of looks like it's going back and forward.
Huge problem with the original too, by the way. I streamed that and reviewed it, and there was a huge problem with the cutscenes when that originally came out. Huge issue with performance in the cutscenes. Okay, well, good to know. All right, so there you go with Silent Hill 2 reviews. Game did really well. And then Until Dawn, we're not quite sure. We covered Outlaws patches a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
Like mixed Steam reviews with some people saying apparently there was some pre-release negativity around it looked horrible for streamers who got early access to it or whatever. But apparently a lot of that has been addressed with a day one patch, it seems.
Oh, post-processing on characters, cleaning up their image and
Possibly.
stuff. Okay. And then, unfortunately, guys, Alters was delayed. And I got to say, that sucks balls. Because that game's preview that I did, I was absolutely in love with what I played storyline wise. There were some definite issues with, control. There wasn't too many with performance. That game looked like it was going to kill it, and they delayed it. And they delayed it until, I believe, February of next year. No, I think they just said 2025. I don't think they gave a date or a month. But dude, it sucks because I previewed that, and when I was playing it, I was like, oh, I love this idea of taking different people out of different realities. This is going to be great. I'm super excited. And once again, this is why you should never hope. And I mean that as a general statement. Just never hope. Never expect anything. Never hope. Never get your expectations high. And yeah, here we go. So yeah, it sucks, man. My hope is to come back to it and sort of see where it is, when it releases. But like I said, I don't even know the exact date. It's just sort of a pisser. Next up, Hitman 3. I don't know if you guys saw this. Hitman 3 VR Reloaded. The developer, XR Games, laid off almost all of its staff. 72 out of 84.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a big layoff. It's a ton of people.
I mean, that's like 90%, right?
That game didn't do well either, did it? I don't think it did.
I don't know.
I feel like that one didn't do well. Yeah. Because I think that one had a bunch of performance graphics like that, those kind of issues. So, yeah. Unfortunate, but we'll just have to see. Hopefully everybody lands on their feet. That's the problem lately we've been getting with LinkedIn like posts where you don't really know anything that's going on, and then like LinkedIn pops up and they're like, "Oh yeah, everybody's gone. Everybody's been laid off," which is sort of a crapper. Not sort of, is really a crapper. It's a bad industry to have even one game not do great. Looks like Vapor says they haven't cut things out apparently like some recent Resident Evil remakes. I think you're talking about Silent Hill. You're right, yeah. Nathan says Hitman VR is like the first game I am asking, is this too far? Everything I saw was just people choking someone to death. Like imagine Manhunt in VR. And I can, and I like the idea. So maybe we don't agree on this, but no, I get you. It's definitely a violent game.
Yeah.
Silver. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. EA. No Sims 5.
Yeah.
So, dude, what do you think about that? Like, I don't know, man. I feel that's weird to not like. Do you think it's just cost cutting or cost savings, and they just don't want to? Like,
for sure.
You think so?
I think they've just made the. I think they've just made the assessment that they don't have to make a Sims 5.
Oh, true.
That they can just keep churning out the expansion packs and then tie it into like the Sims Online and then make that into a service game. And then go from there. I think it bothers me because like Sims 4 is an aging game at this point, and they've shuffled so many expansion packs onto it that barely like the coding now, I think, is so sort of tangled together that I think it's going to get really, really, really messy. In ways that are very similar to what has sort of been the main trouble for Creative Assembly with Total War at this point. Where I think the more they just pour onto it, it's going to add gasoline to that fire, and it's going to get worse. Yeah, it seems like a really counterintuitive decision to me.
Yeah, me too.
To not sort of revise the engine and not move on from that, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. I mean, that boat has sailed now.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It was very weird to me because especially with Sims 4 having the issues of not being, Sims 3 had the open world stuff, and which was great, but it was not performant. Sims 4 tried to pare that down, and at times Sims 4 has been performant, but not perfectly. So the idea was, okay, we're going to get a Sims 5 that maybe was up to snuff, and, who knows what engine they were running, and we could see this thing, try to sort of revitalize itself. And let's be honest, EA wants to sell you every new expansion again, or every expansion again, right? So I guess I just put 2 and 2 together and was like, okay, Sims 5 is going to come out, and you're going to have these same in repackaged different stuff, but overall. So the idea that they just stayed with it, they must be selling buku, what do you call it, DLC packs, right? They must be. Their sales for their stuff must be crazy, and I think they just did a Grim Reaper Halloween event of some kind. I know they did some kind of event for Halloween with like the Grim Reaper. So
I think it's also like, I think The Sims is one of those franchises where it's really, really difficult to get a genuine sense of where people are at with it in terms of like satisfaction, because I think there's such a huge silent user base on that game that we don't hear from at all in gaming discourse. Where are people satisfied? Like I saw in the chat, someone saying people are content with Sims 4. Like a lot of the content I see in Sims 4 is people definitely not
making their own
content with Sims 4 and not being content with the state of that game and with the state of the expansion packs that are releasing for it. But I mean those are the vocal people who are expressing themselves, and there's a huge contingent of silent people there who might very well be very content with it and continue to buy it. So
we've talked about this all the time, right? When we go into a forum and somebody says, "Hey, this game is doing poorly," or "This game is doing bad," and a lot of times, whenever I go in and check with our people or go check with other reviewers, I'm like, what do you think? And they say the opposite. And I'll be like, oh, have you gone out and seen anything? And if they're like me, they probably haven't, because maybe they're reviewing something at the time or what have you. But they'll just be like, no, because it's working.
Yeah.
I'm not in a forum complaining about it. And a lot of them are even though I joke about a lot of us not being well adjusted, many are well adjusted that they just don't get in arguments about it. Like they're just, the argument, it can be the entire world could be on fire, and whatever they got, they're very happy. They don't have a bug that somebody has or what have you. And they're like, why would I go? Other than maybe occasionally say, I'm not having that issue. But even just trying to be nice and saying, I'm not having that issue, will immediately get people being like, you're lying or whatever. And it's like, no, I'm just not having that particular bug. And we saw that with Jim Sterling's review of Hellblade 1, where he had a particular bug and other people didn't. They got all over him for it. And he's like, dude, I had the bug. I can't. This is my experience with the game. So
you're the one that deleted his save game.
Yeah, and screwed it up with like the torch or something. That was a whole big kerfuffle. I like that word. I got to use it again. But yeah, I would agree with you, Silver. Like, they probably looked at the financials, right? And they were all, we're doing. I mean, I'm guessing they were like, we're doing well with what we're putting out there. They must be selling well.
And I think that, and then weighing it against the cost and the resources in overhauling it, and then looking at we're going with the online stuff in a major way. So I forget what their online project is called. The online Sims project, but the code name for it. But apparently it's all gonna like tie into this single Sims platform that's gonna be one marketplace, one like all the stuff that's gonna tie into all the Sims offshoots, like mobile offshoots and stuff that they're doing as well.
Yeah. I love it. Kenshiro just said something that's awesome. He says, it's like people that still play Rocket League, even though they're miserable with it, too invested. And yet, just this last weekend, we had 3 new people playing Rocket League. And they were like, dude, I love this game. So while I agree with that, because I know somebody who I talk to daily who hates Rocket League and plays it 6 hours a day. I think with Sims, there's a lot of people who probably are just generally working around whatever issues they may have, if any. And they're just playing it. And for EA, they somehow did their numbers and felt maybe during the current economic times, they're like, you know what? Why spool up a team where a game might not do well when we already know what we've got?
Maybe their decision has also been helped by the fact that their competitors haven't worked out.
Boom. That's exactly right.
So really, they have a kind of monopoly in that whole market.
Yeah, they've got one other game that popped up all of a sudden, and I saw some previews, but it only popped up because Paradoxes got canceled. So it's like, you're absolutely right. You look and, you know, if you're out there doing daily doubles because the other guys are coming in and some rookie gets injured and you're like, all right, maybe I don't have to show up for daily doubles right now. You know, I don't have to do as much. We'll just have to see what they deliver. I haven't really been up on the Sims expansions for a long time because I'm sort of that guy that if it's working, I don't want to put something else in. Like, I'll be, you know, I get my game sort of set up and it's stable and I just want to jump in and do something stupid in it. And I'm like, add another expansion.
Especially with so many expansions and different things, it would also be really hard to make Sims 5 work with all of that. And then if it doesn't, like you guys said, people have so much already bought into that they would expect, and they would reasonably expect to be able to play everything they've paid for in a way. You know, if they have the vampires or whatever, you know.
I do want to point out, this goes into the further discussion I want to have with you guys. So, my personal belief is that prior to Cyberpunk, we had it a little bit, but I think Cyberpunk is sort of the beginning of big changes in how everything went. And then you had COVID, you have the economy, you have these different companies, you have Concord, you have Microsoft's had games that have come and gone, Redfall. I do believe that a lot of companies are looking at the entire ecosystem and are seeing chaos to the point, you know, where right now it is confusing. And so I would not be in any way surprised for other games that we expect to see sequels. And I am talking about particular games that I'm hearing might not get sequels, where companies are just like, dude, let's hold off. Because right now, it's a very difficult field to get into. We're seeing that with new games. We saw another research paper that just got released yesterday, I believe, that was showing that for the most part, you know, you're talking like anywhere from 5 to 8% of people were playing the single player big games. The rest were going back to their comfort games. I talked about this with the Griffin Gaming research paper a year ago with you guys, where service games were big and they were exploding. All those guys were doing service games, and even they were already reporting that those old games were doing well and people were continuing to play them. So they thought a new service game would work. And we're starting to see that maybe that's not going to work, and that only those older ones are pulling people in. But I could see a lot of these companies just being like, dude, maybe we shouldn't. You know, maybe it doesn't make sense for us. And what's funny is NFL, we talked about earlier, I don't think that's going to happen. But those are the kind of companies I would like to see take this route. I would love to see. I would kill to see Madden and NBA say, we're going to grift you only on one game. But
Yeah, we're going to
you know
keep
what?
developing on this platform of
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
expand on that and make like the roster updates and whatnot.
Yeah. And
And
I
then add
am,
features ongoing.
and this
Yeah.
isn't talking out of pocket because other people, well, maybe they haven't, but the people will be reporting on. We've talked about it before. We're hearing games get canceled, then they're not canceled. Then you hear a game is delayed. You hear rumors about it being canceled. Then somebody randomly pipes up and is like, it's not canceled. I do have a feeling there's a ton of confusion. I mean, it's a confusing time. There's tons of ways to get into
very much
games
so.
right now, and the idea of like
And
trying to go
And
forward
like,
is hard.
like you mentioned on with the Ubisoft stock, highly volatile.
Highly volatile. Yeah, highly. Hermit J, $5 super chat. If no new games ever come out again, would you be satisfied with all the games available currently, or would you eventually give up gaming? How old am I? Okay, let me think here.
I mean, I've been playing Tetris for
Yeah, and
30 years at this point.
I just installed Columns and
yeah. So, yeah.
Poker Smash Online. So yeah,
I wouldn't stop.
I would.
No.
I wouldn't stop. Yeah, I wouldn't stop. I would revisit all the games you guys are talking about that we've never played. I could just ask you
Yeah.
guys for a game a day, and I bet you wouldn't even come a millionth close to
No,
getting
yeah.
to tier 2 games.
Yeah.
You know.
Now it would be depressing that we don't get.
It would
like,
be
new
depressing.
like iteration. Like we wouldn't see people trying to push the envelope and all this
Yeah.
this type of stuff. But
Yeah.
there's so much.
I would think that
explore.
all creation would stop. If video games suddenly stopped creating, I would be more worried about the other stuff. Like, I mean, I love old movies, but I do like to see new tech in movies. I like to see new
Yeah.
tech in games. I that would be such a dramatic shift. But no, I wouldn't stop. No way. No way. I would probably play less because excitement is the thing, right? You see a game. I mean, maybe not as much as it used to be, but as we saw those consoles coming out, we saw games getting better and better, and you saw a character in the SNES, and you said, that looks real. And then you saw Saturn, that looks real. PS1, whoa, that looks real. PS2. And now we are getting really close. I think the real questions should flip a little bit. It's not, will games stop? But the question is, if games graphically look the same for a 10 to 20 year period, would you still keep playing? And that is more interesting to me because graphics they're not perfect by any means. But some games look really fucking good, and I don't know how much more I would need.
Well, and it's already to the point where some of the best looking games of 5 years ago can compete very well with current games. So, think about Red Dead Redemption 2. That game still competes with,
dude. It's so true.
It's crazy. Or like we were talking about Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm sure the remake will look better, but the original already looked, really incredible. So I think the difference is now diminishing returns in the, developments we can make there, but there's so much other stuff that can be iterated upon and invented, right? I think that's where the juice is for games.
I think the Uncanny Valley's popping up pretty quickly too. You're getting people where they look pretty close. You get all these digital, mocapping situations with people, and let's say they don't change the character at all, right? They're like, okay, this is what the guy looks like. This is what the girl looks like. This is the person. But humans have a tendency, it's hard to beat out, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. We have a tendency to look at those plastic motherfuckers and go, you ain't real. And I think that I feel like at times we are at that uncanny valley where when we get closer, I have a harder time sometimes where it's easier to notice something weird. One game
100%.
I was just going to say, but I will say Red Dead, not perfect, but it did a good enough job with animations. It was probably the world itself, and it was the viewpoint. I know you can do first person. I did play it mostly third. I didn't feel that so much there. But see, no, I take that back because there was a couple times I saw Arthur in a cutscene, and I remember going, little plastic, like a pinky up. I didn't say that during the review. I'm not a jackass. But I mean, later going, the hair doesn't look the best. But I mean, we see people with fake hair all the time, hair transplants. That doesn't look good in real life even. So, yeah, that's an interesting discussion, man, if it stopped.
Painted comb over.
Yeah, exactly. So true. I hadn't even thought about that one. And then 1A, Nagel. I'm sorry I always pause there, but it's such a weird username. I can't tell if I'm supposed to be saying one angle or one angle or angle. $5 super chat. What games are you most excited about before it's released? Demos excluded. Oh, no, he says, what makes you most excited about a game before it's released? Demo excluded. Oh, that's a good one. What gets you excited about a game?
That's
like
a
what?
really good one.
Yeah, what pop? Is it a trailer? Is it the developers talking about it? Which I could certainly see that might be pretty high on people's lists, especially if the developers are talking about some nemesis system or something that's unique like that. Is there anything that in particular you look out for a new game, or is it just a trailer?
So it's not.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything specific that
Okay.
I could point to, because it is whatever. It just has to be something that catches my interest, and very often that is something that seems new or unusual or out of the ordinary. Like historical will very often catch my interest,
Attention.
regardless of genre or whatever else.
Even though we've revisited it and it's in the past, you're like, if it's World War II or World War I, you're like, I'm there.
Yeah, or literate, like if there's a literary reference in the title or something that I get,
right?
That could hook me as well. It doesn't, like, I think one of the most frequent ones is I go to a lot of like YouTube channels to sort of curate like indie games and check out like little preambles beforehand and see if there's something there that like initially catches my interest, something about the gameplay, the art style. Like the art style is one thing that very often shapes that initial impression and that first hook.
Yeah.
Whether it catches my eye or not. So maybe the art style is probably the biggest one.
That's fair. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah. I mean, all those things can be the hook, the gameplay itself, right? When I still remember when we saw the first gameplay preview for Space Marine 2, I already thought like I want to, play that. That looks really fun to play. And then it is all of it together, because I like the setting, I like the art direction and everything, like presentation. So yeah, it is all as a package, as you say. But I think the gameplay, like ultimately for me, if I don't see gameplay for a game, I rarely get super excited unless it's an IP I already know. So for me, I guess it does come down to gameplay, right? When we look at trailers and it's all cinematics, I think that only gets me so far.
So weirdly enough, I'm in the middle. I'm the Goldilocks. I'm in the middle. Here's what intrigues me. The art style always is first. And I mean of the game. Fuck the CGI shit. We just saw that with Concord. Right. That shit can die in a fire.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that excites me, man. Whenever you go to a developer's channel and they have a no talk over 3 to 5 minute gameplay session, and it's sound where I can hear, because like if I'm playing a game and the sound is like ching 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 when you hit things, I'm all, oh god, like there's certain things and I have to enjoy playing it. And I love to watch just a 3 to 5 minute. I don't need it explained to me, because in fact when it's explained to me, I have a tendency to listen. I know you're supposed to, but I have a tendency to listen to that versus watch and then maybe watch again.
Yeah.
But a lot of indie devs do that. And Windblown did that. Windblown had like the first 15 minutes. They had some talking, but there was one with not a lot. And you were able to go, okay, that's what the game sounds like.
That's what it's like to play that game in a way.
Yeah, without the rigmarole of all this hammered in bullshit that everybody tries to sell. And they have their cutscenes in that game. They have their trailer that's, here's our announce. But once I saw the actual gameplay and heard it, and heard the way things sound, even a dash sound or even a running sound, or as Silver always complains about the slopping of whose boots was it? What game?
And that was Alan Wake 2. Yeah.
Alan Wake 2. For me, it's definitely been footsteps. If they repeat, if they non-varied, and you know that you're going to be playing 8 hours of the same sound over and over, you just, you can adjust it. I'm just saying those are the things I pick up on. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, it's cool. Wizard of Smoke says $5 super chat. What's up, Wizard? He says, what game would you guys like a sequel or expansion to? I've been playing Hogwarts finally, and it's a tragedy the negative press got to it. So much room to grow. I think what's cool about Hogwarts is not only did it do insanely well, sequel's coming. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's cool.
You didn't know that, which part?
The sequel.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So they even stated on one of their, maybe it was just an article, but they were talking about, it's definitely moving forward in some way. Maybe it was more hedged, but they are definitely doing a second one. So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the negative press got to it. It was a huge financial success.
In fact,
yeah, it just didn't feature in the game of the year.
Yeah, you could argue that it helped it. Yeah,
I would argue that it helped
it. Yeah, I think it did. Really
and Game of the Year is useless as a sales tag. We know that now. Like, Game of the Year does in no way, shape, or form like dramatically increase sales. So it's
and it had some politicking,
and it's also sort of hurt by the fact that nearly every game does a Game of the Year edition. Although
I remember the Batman one. They don't do that as much, but remember that shit, Game of the Year edition. You're like,
every game.
Who rated that Game of the Year? Whoever rated that Game of the Year?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I agree with you. I get what I guess you could just say what he's really talking about is like, it does remove all the other stuff. Even if you dislike whatever her name is, what is her name?
J.K. Rowling.
Thank you, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
The thing is those developers made it, and I'm fine. Probably because I know some other developers of games or some IPs that one of my favorite games of all time was written by one of the craziest people known to man. And that's still my favorite. I still love the game. I sort of have to separate myself from that, or a lot of the stuff I would probably not be able to play.
Yeah, Chinatown is an incredible film made by a complete
piece of shit.
scumbag. Yeah.
Advent Rising, written by Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, or like
you don't know who that is, go look up, or Lovecraft stuff, even though Lovecraft, again, there we go. So that's the thing. I would say that it
doesn't mean that you should necessarily ignore it, but it does mean you can ask yourself questions what you're comfortable consuming and what you're not. And that's a question that you're gonna have to ask yourself and live with. And that's it.
Yeah. I think when you look at it, it probably helped it. I do believe that there were people looking at it who maybe would have never, probably never thought of getting it, and were like, dude, maybe they were interested in it because it kept popping up, and then they're like, oh, actually, it's not Harry Potter, even though it's what you would assume. Maybe they thought it was Harry Potter, and when they see it's not, they're like, oh man, you know what? Maybe I want to jump in there and play that. So I don't know, man. We'll never know, right? That's you can never go back in time and check that shit out. But yeah, it's an odd one. I'm glad you're getting to play it because I really enjoyed the hell out of that game, man. I had a good time. It's fun to play, and I'd like
cool
to see a sequel. Yeah.
In that.
So speaking of games that we have liked, stuff that we have liked, I have a question for you guys. This is my own question. So Metaphor popped up as a discussion around Persona and Metaphor, and multiple people were celebrating that currently we do not see a cat. And I was thinking to myself, what is a particular element in a game? And I know it's going to be hard to not say, well, it's the game, I don't care, but let's try to find one. What is a particular element in a game that if you could go back, it bothered you enough you'd like it removed? So for me, my example would be Persona 5. I would like that cat to be ejected and nuked from orbit. That cat actually made me not like the game more than I could have, and the entire dynamic around it. And I know like I said, it's really easy to go, there's nothing, but it's like, was there something that you really played, you really liked, but there's one and it can be big. You could be like, I didn't like the leveling in Starfield. I didn't like the leveling in Skyrim. I didn't like a character in Witcher, and I wish they were gone. I'm just talking off the top of my head here. But is there any for you guys that come to mind that like makes you go, yeah, that would be nice if that wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many because there are so many little idiosyncrasies that sometimes I'll notice and start to drive me crazy in games.
Over time.
Yeah, like I think. I mean, I think I mentioned I liked Jedi Survivor, but one thing that continually drove me crazy in that game is how often Cal does the animation where he slaps a mosquito at the back of his neck,
Yeah.
and he does it regardless of wherever he is,
Yeah.
whether he's like on Coruscant or wherever it is. Like every like minute or so, he'll do thump, like, and it just started like I noticed it pretty quickly, and then I just couldn't stop noticing it, and it kept driving me crazy. Like every minute when he would do it, it kept triggering me.
I like that idea. I'd like because it's
Consistently,
small,
yeah.
but
Yes.
if something like that comes up and you're all, but why? Like, why are we repeating the same thing? Especially like if you're in space, if you're in a spaceship and you're still slapping
Yeah.
all the time. I guess you could assume they like force blood. Somebody said Borderlands claptrap, and I would say at least in the last game or so, I think claptrap is a pretty solid answer for a lot of people. I think a lot of people would like to have seen claptrap be gone. So that's a good answer. What about you, Johnny? You got any?
Yeah, there are lots of little annoyances. I'm trying to see if there's a personification, like, a character or something really, really
Well,
interesting or really
I'll read some of
specific.
these while you're thinking. Zabruno says level scaling in Oblivion. Man, level scaling in Oblivion was a big goddamn deal, and people hated that shit, and I replaced it pretty quickly. So I would say that is a perfect answer. We also have a $10 super chat from John Martin. Thanks again for the super chats. Also, if you're here and haven't subscribed, I would appreciate you doing it, or give the podcast a thumbs up while we're all here. He says hello from Massachusetts. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
The art direction in the art direction is golden in. Is Javier talking about Fantasio or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah. Is it Reefer?
I've never heard anybody say it's golden, but there we go. It doesn't matter. But I think they're talking amongst themselves. But what about you, Johnny? Like anything? Like what about?
I thought about Dragon's Dogma too.
Ooh, here we
time
go.
in the town,
Here we go.
like the main town. I feel like that overall just took away from the game, actually.
Yeah.
I
Fair.
went out of my way to not spend time in that town.
Right.
And every quest that I had to do in it was pretty miserable because of the, frame rate issues. The design of the quests weren't that great in the city. Like everything just was pretty terrible in it. So I feel like it would have been a better game without the having to go back to that specific time, just in the way it worked out in the end. But not that it couldn't be fixed, just in practice.
I mean, the frame rate got a lot better once you killed the whole town with the Dragon Plague, though, didn't it?
It did get better.
Well, that was the second town, Silver. So, like the desert town, that's the one that got nuked by the plague in my game. So, and that one was fine, sadly, prior. So,
Johnny's game makes the game or makes the part that runs good run better, and not fixes the part that doesn't run good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, I adore. I love, I absolutely love that game. However, that city, even the FPS issues aside, their city and characterizations is that medieval Gennaro Euro something. And I would agree with you, man. Even the Masquerade quest, it took like 7 seconds, but it could take 20 minutes to set up, which was really weird. It would take you a while to get the quest even trigger. Then you'd trigger. It took like 7 seconds to get through. And you'd be like, okay, I wasted all this time. You had multiple people who missed it. I think that their quests as a whole in Dragon's Dogma, though, is definitely there's times where I liked it, but it's definitely their weak spot. It's definitely weak.
Yeah, they had some good ones, but yeah, overall.
Wouldn't you also go so far as to say people's fucking faces? Dragon Age 2's faces, man. Those were some ugly bitches, man.
Yeah, I didn't get too close to anybody.
I did. And
that way.
I mean, anybody you talked to was rough.
Yeah.
It's such a step down from everybody else. Something we saw in Starfield where they had like your main character, your secondary, and your tertiary. And those tertiaries showed up and it looked like their faces were made of Play-Doh and just despair. I mean, you were looking at it going like, what in the is wrong with this?
Like,
They're all...
Do you need help? You know,
Yeah.
like blink twice.
You're all, give me a sign if you need me to get you to safety, because they were just so messed up looking. Yeah, that is true. Like Dragon's Dogma definitely has some. Look in here, weapon breaks in Zelda. Hermit J says, Alpsilish says, agree with some weird Japanese sexual stuff. Yeah, that is true. You can definitely see that coming up. Nathan says, I hate the inventory management in Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't great.
It isn't great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only good thing you can say about it is that you didn't have to interact with it as much as many other games.
And it's functional.
And it's, yeah. Right.
Okay. I do have one then. I hadn't thought about this. Every Resident Evil inventory. I hate it. I hate it.
Tetris.
I don't
You
like
don't
Tetris.
the puzzle games of fitting it in. Yeah.
No. And they
Into the
distinctly
slots.
push me away from the game. Javier, $5 super chat
The
says, sorry,
fact that
Carrick.
like a little box of handgun ammo is the same size as like a wrench or whatever.
Yeah.
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 Says, sorry, Carrick. I was saying in metaphor, art direction is lovely, but environments could have been executed a lot better. Yeah, no, that's what I thought you were saying. I haven't seen that yet overall, but I think that game's just, its art direction is so different that for a lot of us, it's probably, I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier, is I think for a lot of people, it's not going to hit. Oh, Ken Shiro says something amazing. People in GTA 4 calling you every 30 seconds to hang out. This happens also in Dead Rising, man. The remake of Dead Rising. You forget how often they're on the phone. Otis is just calling you consistently, and and then you'll think you're at the end, and so you'll start to move, and it's quiet. You're like, okay, great, and then you run 5 feet, and he starts it all over. As I was saying, you're all, dude,
Yeah, because you got interrupted, and then it has to start.
and you got interrupted in one
yeah.
quarter of a second.
Yeah,
man. 1 quarter,
right before
right at
it
the
was
end.
supposed to end. Yeah.
It's like they think the period is going to confuse anybody. It's like, and he would call back and be like, please, God. And I'm getting chased. And so I knew I had to listen to it. You're chased, you're leaping through windows, killing everybody around you, and then sitting at the back of a room going, please call. Okay, go. And then you're just hoping nobody hits you. And there were actually times where I would wait. Bad guys were coming. And I was like, Otis, please get there. Okay, great. And he would get done. Yeah. So that one, that's a good answer, man. That
reminded me of something actually in Borderlands and other games, when the bad guys can call you directly and talk to you at any time. So you're out there doing your thing, and you're getting a call from the villain. They're like even video calling you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sorry, who gave you my number? You know what I mean? Like, we're not friends. Why do I have to stand? And this was especially aggravating because the villains were super annoying in Borderlands 3, right? They were the social media, like, teenager angst people. So I have to now take these calls. They're not, you're not called, I'm not picking up the call. It's directly being piped through me, like through to me. And I even have video of these people.
Dude, I just thought of my favorite answer.
They could knock you out in the cutscene and then abduct you and
fucking Far Cry 5. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the Far Cry
abductions
games,
in.
Oh my God, in Far Cry 5. What were they fucking thinking, man? Like, everybody asks them all the other questions. Like, where'd you come up with the nuclear story? What's the religious allegory? Fuck you. Ask them blankly who thought stopping everything I was doing and forcing me to be kidnapped multiple times to go through the same multiple, like, that room.
To get some exposition.
Dude, I now enjoy Far Cry 5 for what it is, but when you know that they're going to take you out no matter what, there is something so negative to the gameplay. It's such a dramatic impact when somebody's like, hey man, they're coming for you. You know, you get like a radio. I think the sheriff calls you sometimes on the radio, if I remember right. And he's like, hey, Joseph's guys are coming for you. And you're just sitting there going, fuck it. So you know what I used to do? I would just stand there. I'd be like, and I think that's such a negative response to it. A telling one, a telling negative response is a lack of any movement whatsoever and a giving up completely, utterly on the gameplay until that thing happens. And I was so stunned how bad that design decision was, and how that got through so much testing without somebody saying, "Guys, man,
this doesn't feel
or
good."
somebody saying that being listened to.
Oh,
Right.
true, right? Yeah.
Because also when you were in those moments, you knew you weren't in danger. Of course not. Because after the exposition, you're going to be...
You're always released.
You're going to escape. You're released. Like...
Well, those are good
they're trying
answers.
to make you think there's mortal danger because you got captured. But actually, evidently, there hasn't been.
Evidently, there haven't been for the last 5 minutes because... or you'd be fighting people off and then an arrow would come out of nowhere. You'd be in a cave and you fought off the first wave because they would always do like a first wave you could generally fight off. And I'd be in a cave alone or in a room alone with the door shut and it'd be like, bonk! And you'd be, knocked unconscious, first of all, by an arrow. Apparently, they were able to knock you unconscious without killing you. Somebody also said, weirdly enough, that Cyberpunk had an issue with calling you. So...
Yeah, it does.
Does
somewhat.
it?
Yeah, you don't
your
take the calls.
Stuff.
Like, you're just... Like, calls are being piped through to you as well.
And they go into your little up-down on the directional pad, right? Up to, like, answer the call. And you ignore them and they go to voicemail? Or do they keep calling you?
So some of them are forced. Some of them are forced.
Okay,
a lot of them are just, forced. They just come up. And especially the ones from the Delamere, the car guy, calling you to tell you about yet another car guy. It's like Bernie Sanders, like, yet again telling you about, like...
Alpsa says you can ignore most of the calls. That's the unfortunate thing. Because you can also ignore most of the enemies.
The main story ones are the ones that are forced, I think. So
gotcha.
Well, the
depends on how you
Delamere
play
stuff
the game,
was
right?
not story.
If you play the game focusing on the main story ones, then you're not going to be able to
ignore any of them.
To ignore most of the calls.
Funny enough, that sort of goes into how you play a game, right? Too.
Yeah.
If you do play a game, let's say 1, 2, 3, you might notice those calls 20, 30 times more than somebody who's exploring and ignoring some of them or what have you. Like that, I could absolutely
have long stretches of time pass without getting calls.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. How you actually play the game can affect it in that one. Wizard of Smoke says Lester calling you every time you log into GTA 5 online. And then...
man, not just Lester. I mean, if you own businesses in GTA 5
update calls and stuff
online, good Lord, you will get calls from the guy with your motorcycle club, with your bunker, with your nightclub, all of them. Like, tend to your business. Like,
tend to your business.
It's just nonstop in that game.
Get on it, people.
On the level that makes GTA 4 seem like you have call screening or whatever.
Next up, I want to talk a little bit about Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred. Review thread is up. It looks like OpenCritic, 85% average, 92% recommended, 26 reviews total. So that one also has done really well. And I know Johnny's going to play that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this weekend, do you think?
Is it already?
Well, the reviews popped. Is it already this weekend? That's so answerable in so many different ways. Is the game already out? Would be the question, right? Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred release.
Yeah, I'm checking it now. I did want to play it.
Reviews are good, man.
8th of October, so it's next week. Yeah, so soon.
7th, 8th. Yeah, so interestingly enough, the reviews came 3 days early. That's not what I expected on that. Not in a bad way. I didn't expect it to be bad, but that early I expected if they were releasing those on Friday, the game would have gone live this weekend just to get weekend players. So, okay, well, there you go. So next weekend, then, we'll be playing
That's awesome. One. Yeah, because that's like an extension to the campaign as well. Well, we're talking about extension or DLC, but it is like, more campaign content with cutscenes and everything, which I really enjoyed in that game. I think that was the strength of it.
Yeah. Love the game says, we're out here. $5 super chat. Thank you very much. She says, we're out here grinding. Hello from SD, San Diego. Winter's coming. What are some awesome activities normal guys should try if they get a chance? What are some normal activities people should try if they get a chance? Normal. There's some normal activities.
Well, not awesome activities, normal guys.
No, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to be awesome. In fact, I'm trying to dumb down, not dumb down, but I'm trying to normalize an activity and find something that's just generally still fun, but is considered maybe. It's funny enough, Soulskeeper just gave the answer. I was going to say doing groceries. A lot of my friends just, they order in all the time. They haven't gone to a grocery store in like 2 or 3 years. Going to the library, and that's not a joke. I do think that there's something different about seeing digital picture of like a Kindle is not the same as like seeing the edges of books. This is old school. But there's something about a library that I love. And also most new libraries, have their magazines out so you can see game stuff, all that kind of stuff. I would say go into a local library to see what it's like, because there's something about that, man. I love that. Well, go ahead.
I completely agree, except if I were to do that, it would depress me to no end.
Because you can't read them all.
No, because like libraries here have been like drastically downsized because of the whole digital age thing. So there are lots of like shelves there that are just empty now.
Oh, really? Okay, we haven't had that, luckily, because that would depress me. Yeah. Go to car shows, the Daigle says. I like the smell of books. Wicked Critter says, that sounds so weird out of the blue. I like the smell of books. Talking to a girl. Hey, man, what's your name? Susie? I like the smell of books. Feel like you'd probably get hit. I love the library in Hillsboro, Oregon. I rent games there too. Oh yeah, a lot of games here are also rentable at your local libraries, and they're brand new, by the way, which is weird.
Yeah. But yeah, we always had that.
So have we. But what I meant was just it's weird that people don't realize that, and so you can go, and a lot of times the brand new game is there day one, and it's nobody's picked it up, which I think is cool because it's a little secret
for sure.
Somebody can try. Alp says backpacking. Yeah, I mean, if you like backpacking, if you're not Reg, if the backpacking trail says novice and you've never done it before, just do novice. That's all I'm saying. Reg almost killed himself. What did he choose? I think he did expert, and he's like gone backpacking a couple times, almost died. Doing projects for your wife, Fighting D-Dog says. What about you, Johnny? Is there anything generally normal that you like doing that you think it'd be sort of cool if somebody else did it that maybe hadn't done that before?
One cool thing I'm doing with some friends next week is going to a board game cafe. We've gone before. It's really nice. They have like tons of shelves full of games, like 3-4 big shelves full of board games. So you can go there, you can pick up any game and play. You just pay like a certain amount for the hours you're going to be there. And there's also food, like, we ate some pizza. It was great. And you get to play games. And it's just a lot easier than sometimes having people over at your home because like maybe it's far for people, so it is like a more central place. So it's a bit easier to actually get together with people, less logistics. And it's been super cool to also like discover some new games or different versions of games. Like, for example, Dice Throne that you introduced me to has a lot of different versions and things. So we went there, we saw, there's like a Game of Thrones version, which didn't end up being very good. But, you get to discover a bunch of other stuff. You also sometimes meet people who are there because what can happen is, this game, plays up to 8. Do we want to maybe like join up with another group and say like, hey, do you guys, So yeah, it works out pretty well.
You know what I would add to that, Johnny? I think it's happening slowly, but I am now hearing, including like professionals that I listen to their podcasts, stars that I listen to podcasts, as well as my own friends, going out on dates with people not from digital apps, but actually people that like friends introduce you to or something. Because it is weird how much I am hearing that now, where they're like, oh, it feels totally different. You know, I don't know, you know, there's probably 1,000 different reasons why, but as somebody who, like, that's how I always went. I wouldn't go to an app. I would say, hey, if you've only dated people on apps, maybe see if your friends know somebody cool. And there's something about everybody knowing that person. There's a little bit more connection there that I've actually been happy to hear some of my friends are just now finding. And they're like, oh, dude. And maybe they did it when they were younger, but they've gotten accustomed to apps and clicking somebody and be like, okay, let's go to the movies. And it's like, that's all you're really doing. It's like a momentary diversion for some people, or let's fuck. But you get my drift sometimes.
Well, yeah. And also someone going to that place already is a good selection bias towards the kind of person you're interested in. Because in the app, you have to, you know, filter all these people that don't care about anything you care about. But someone who is spending their time at the board game cafe, you know, there's a good overlap there, right? There's a good starting point of shared interests.
Or you find out they like something different than you, and you talk to their friends about what they're doing, and you might find a new interest versus filtering everything out. If you filter everything out, all you're going to get is the answers you've filtered everything out of. And sometimes that is, I mean, I've met people that were some of my favorite friends, wife, girlfriend, what have you, that I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't think I would have done this ever on my own. And I certainly wouldn't have searched for it. You know, in fact, it would have for sure been off of the search because it just didn't appeal to me.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let's see. Next
I have
go
one.
for it. Oh yeah, go for it. For sure.
Though volunteer work.
Damn good
also
idea.
A little similar to what Johnny mentioned. I mean, it can be anything from like helping out at a soup kitchen, like visiting retirement homes to like visit elderly people or whatever it is. It can be a million different things. But finding something and volunteering there, and it's such an enormously rewarding way to build social networks, meeting people. Like that's been the most gratifying aspect of it for me, has been just meeting people and building social networks and encountering people who are absolutely incredible and amazing and help sort of retain my faith in humanity in spite of sort of many of the horrors and whatnot that I am exposed to. So that's definitely something I would recommend for helping you keep sane.
Would also add a useful skill, sewing. The number of times I've been with friends and something's happened and it would have we would have had to take additional steps. And I'm like, dude, I can sew. We have I can fix that in like 5 seconds, whatever it may be. You know, it is actually still insanely useful, whether it be for clothing or, you know, somebody's brow that got cut open because they tripped over a rock and hit a stick.
That's knitting as well. You would be surprised to find how useful that can be as well.
It is for calmness for sure too. Cadiz says, "What's your best created character name and why is it Fetid Roast?" Fetid Roast was a good character. Josh, shut up. He's teasing me. Do you guys name your characters generic stuff? Like, how do you guys, and anybody in chat, how do you guys go with naming your character? Are you like Sniffle Bottom, Whistle Down, or do you just like Johnny, Bob?
Yeah, often it is Johnny, or it's like a version of that. Like if I'm playing a high fantasy game, I won't put Johnny, you know, because that's too contemporary.
Yeah.
I'll go like Jedediah, or you know, like something that's along the same, you know, whatever.
Has a letter or two that shares it, or what have you.
Yeah, because Jean is John in French, so like for some reason in my brain there was a connection there. But whatever kind of sounds along the lines of my name in that style.
Do you name yours like Silver? Do you name them weird, or do you name them Silver?
I name them according to lore, typically.
In the world.
I try to be lore accurate to whatever world or setting they're set in.
That's why you were pissed when I wore like heresy colors in Space Marine 2.
No, I wasn't pissed. I just remarked on it. Yes.
You remarked upon it. Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people will in Space Marine. They take that shit serious, man. It is a step beyond names. Let's see. Doomer for Life says, what would you recommend to someone as something that's influenced you or your life? One movie, one book, or one video game? Music? Like if you had one bit of something to recommend to somebody.
So I have a book, probably the Little Prince, Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Famous for the quote, it is only with the heart that one can see clearly what is essential is invisible to the eye.
What's a good
That
quote?
book really is sort of it's enormously moving, but it's also really it's a really excellent way of sort of grounding your outlook on humanity as a whole and life in general. Like it's ostensibly a children's book, but really it's a children's book for adults. And it's one of the most popular books in literature history for a reason.
All right. Well, that trumps the sophistication of anything I'm going to go with. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah. No, it's the same for me. It kind of trounced whatever I can come up with. I have a lot of things. There is one book that's impacted me surprisingly hugely, which because I'm not really that much into these type of like self-help writers like David Goggins, the Get Hard type thing. But I read a book by Jocko Willink, who is a kind of guy like that, like military guy. He wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, and that actually changed the entire way I like conduct myself in business. It's pretty much one of the big reasons why I went from being like super average in what I did at work at being pretty decent at it. And so if you ever find yourself like bitching about stuff or thinking that, oh, it sucks that this happened to me, or like this type of stuff where you feel like you're powerless in certain situations, it's a really good mindset shift to explore taking responsibility over your own outcomes. It sounds very obvious, but yeah, the way he takes you through it really breaks some of these narratives that we build. Like, oh, it's the Uber driver's fault because he was late. No, it was an important appointment. You could have left home 15 minutes earlier, right, to ensure you would have gotten there. This type of stuff, yeah.
Next up, I have a super chat here. I had to reset my window because it had frozen. Soulskeeper, $24 super chat says, gents, thanks for the awesome podcast. No question today. Just want to share the equal amount I just painfully spent on making sure my premium pro console can freaking stand vertically. Well, let's hope that liquid metal doesn't cause an issue vertically. I'm just joking. I don't even know if that... I can't even remember
it's
if that
also
turned
a
out to be real.
bad stand.
I think it did, though.
Like the stand is bad. For it, it's flimsy. It's hard to like when you try to fit the PlayStation onto it. It's not easy. Like there's for some reason it doesn't fit
the PlayStation
perfectly.
5 also doesn't come with a stand, isn't that the meme?
think that
not the Pro, but like the
Pro, yeah.
normal one does, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a good stand.
And then Solar Sphincter. We were in chat yesterday, day before yesterday, and he brought up a question that actually it did make me wonder. I still don't know the answer to this, but basically he was saying, do you guys change your clothes a lot in games? And I think it came up when he was doing Yakuza, because one of the Yakuzas don't let you change, the other one does, or classes change. I can't remember how it came up, but he was talking about that, and I was looking back on the games I play, and I realized I do until I like the look of something. And then I get sort of like, that's my guy. And then I have an issue changing. And I know people will say transmord because that's definitely a popular thing now. Whatever, if it's not even, I usually find, I change until I find something I like, and then I have a tendency to stick with it. In fact, there's a lot of games I'm sure I've been at a detriment because I've been like, I like what I'm wearing. Do you guys find yourselves just switching for whatever? Do you just switch just based on the pluses?
No.
Because we've talked about that before.
Never.
No. Yeah.
No, but I change my outfit every mission, dude. Space
What?
Marine, pretty much every mission. And you've played with me.
Yeah, that's
I'll
true.
have a new
Yeah.
color, or I'll have a new, and every mission is like, okay, where are we going? We're going this place. Okay, I got the red on, like, and it's not based in lore or anything. It's purely on like satisfaction of the looks.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I would say minus. I don't change them all the time in Space Marine, but I definitely changed them a lot.
It's funny because we were playing with Antisky, and I always bitch because he never changes. Like, he has the one.
Yeah, he showed up and he had the one gray whatever,
dude,
for all the guys, and I was like, dude,
we've done 200 missions, and he's like still.
Maybe it was a psychological thing. Maybe he thought that like the Terminator, the evil Marines, the Chaos Marines would see him and think he was a low level dude, and maybe they wouldn't go so hard on him. And he's like, bitch. This is just a crappy tunic. I'm actually amazing. I have no clue, but I definitely noticed that when he was playing, that he was still wearing the absolutely ancient shit. Looking here,
for me, it's still like with the names, a question of lore accuracy. So definitely there are games where I will never change. I will run starting looks, like The Witcher 3. I will run the starting armor in that game through the entire game. Even though terrible stats, like I'll get potentially runs one shot by the end of the game, it doesn't matter. I just won't get hit then. So, but that, because that's what Geralt wears in all the art and whatnot for the game, like that. So that's what he has to wear in the cutscenes for me, right? So for there to be that consistency, I very often sort of work to, because it's very rare even today that that like what you're wearing in the game also necessarily translates to what you're wearing in the cutscene.
Yeah.
So I sort of try and make that fit, for the most part.
Yeah, I definitely change. I change sometimes, but yeah, I just get stuck with something. I sort of dig it. And some games, when they have a bunch of options, I'm like, whatever. Slightly green. It also depends on how good the change is. I think, for example, Warhammer Space Marine, maybe not the helmets, those were shit, but the main like breastplate in that game changes pretty dramatically depending on your level. So I did find myself, when I got a new one, usually going to it. But here, do you know what kills my soul, guys? When I look and I can see that level 3 is better than 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that happened to me in Space Marine. I was like, 3 hit my jam. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I love it. And then I looked at the others and was like, uh-oh, that sucks. Because it will slightly affect the curve of my desire to upgrade. Doomer for Life says, from previous podcasts, it sounds like you in your professional life acted a lot as a project manager. I myself am working as a junior business analyst position, trying to work my way up into project manager. First, what advice would you give in general? And secondly, do you have any advice on how to become better organized for such a role? Lastly, if you've ever done work in Jira, any recommendations? Yeah, ask them to switch away from Jira. No, Jira does work, but I do remember Jira's got so many horror stories. For anybody who doesn't know, Jira's like a project management software, and it's like there's other ones that do it better, but it's just like whenever you get it back in the old days, you'd have somebody arguing Word versus whatever, other word editor there was out there. You always get that, but it gets me like tense when I hear about it.
I have one advice for Jira, very simple. Get your teammates to share responsibility of creating their own tasks. This makes it so they own the work that they're doing a bit more. They feel like, they have a bit more like liberty in how they organize themselves, like how they want to split a task or do something. So you're not the responsible of setting everything up in Jira. You open up the epics for everybody, and then you talk to your guys, right? And they know they need to spin up a task for whatever it is they're doing. Makes it a lot easier, and everybody feels like they have a bit more input.
And I would say as project manager, it depends on where you are and what you're doing. Project manager can either be pretty solo, or it can be mired in the same bullshit that leads and others are in, where it's all a group think. if you're in a group think, my advice to you would be just be aware you're in a group think. And that sounds really like generic, but if you get a manager who doesn't realize the other managers are going to be in their projects, all that kind of stuff, you're probably going to get fired. You're probably not going to do very well. And those project manager positions suck balls. They're terrible.
Yeah.
The ones that are the best are where people trust you over a period of time, which is how I got my jobs, was not through schooling. It was through continual progression of really good leaders. I would also say, you hear that shit where people say you learn from your mistakes. That's true. But honestly, the best advice I would have is that sometimes just sit back and listen to other people explaining their mistakes. And even if you go in your brain, I'd never do that. It doesn't mean you would. It's just that you can still take a little bit from somebody else's story. And what I picked up from other people was some pretty intelligent shit that if I hadn't been in a room with those people, I would never have heard the story. So you hear a lot of people say something, and I'm just going to tell you this. You'll hear somebody say, yeah, man, I don't like to talk to other people. I just like to sit in my desk. I just like to be, I work well on my own or what have you. And they start pushing that sort of I need nobody attitude. As a project manager, honestly, it is social. And what I noticed was the people who didn't understand that regardless of which of these type of positions they were in, they didn't realize that going to a meeting sometimes that maybe you normally would pass up because it feels useless to you. You end up listening to people and you're like, oh, they're having this problem over here. Damn, we had that problem last week. We fixed it with this. Maybe they don't want your input. That's fine. But if they do, you might be able to help them, or you might be able to hear them having an issue that is on your next cycle, and you will run into that issue if you weren't there to hear that problem. And the number of times I was in a discussion in a hallway, and I heard somebody go, yeah, so we just started this, blah, 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 and we had it, and I perked up because I was like, wait, what? Like, that's what we're doing next week. And you just walk over and you're like, can you explain that? And if they have time, they'll explain it. And you can get a lot from listening to people explain situations that don't seem that they're directly connected. And project managers, the reason why I bring that up is because project manager is a weird job. Every single job has been different that I've done. Vastly different as project managers. And the only thing that was the same was really me, Cadiz, who worked with me, because I brought him to the next job because we worked well together. And I would say that's the other thing, man. If you got somebody who works well with you, that's probably better than $1,000 in your pocket a month.
Yeah,
and
latch on to that,
bro. If it doesn't matter if you have idiosyncrasies that rub each whatever, that, and we didn't. Luckily, I'm just saying if you do, there is nothing better than going like, okay, I know what this person's going to do at this particular point. Or I know what information Jeremy is going to want. So he would come in. Yeah, he would come in, and the information he gave me may not sound like normal information everybody else was getting, but it was the information I needed. And so you just be like, boom, 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 done. And for years, we were kicking it. People were like, Jesus Christ, these guys get stuff done so fast. And it's excellent accuracy. And it was like, because we had figured out what worked for us. And if you can find somebody on your team that's that way, cultivate that in any fucking human way possible.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the listening is also a leadership quality, because if you want people to listen to you, you have to listen to them first. You know, like if you go in and your first thing is, hey, this is what you have to do, blah, 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 instead of like hearing that person's perspective, they're going to be much less inclined to go out of their way to do stuff for you, really.
And I will say that our job was very time sensitive, so sometimes we didn't listen. We didn't have time to listen. But what we would do is people, over time, they understand what little bit you need. So you didn't have to sit there and listen to everything. You could be like, this is what I know that Jeremy needs this. I know that Josh needs this. It was very easy to sort of figure out what each of you needed. But yeah, it's super important. Cultivate stuff. The amount of times I hear somebody sell themselves as a isolationist, I guess, whether it be the tech nerd whether it be myself, even at times where you're like, I don't need anybody else. The number of times those people leave first in a financial cut is insanely high. It's like in the business world, it sounds, it's all cool. It's like, I don't need anybody, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you know what? If you don't need anybody, you don't have a lot of contact, guess who thinks of you first?
Yeah.
When we talk about bonuses.
Yeah, if you haven't
probably
built a
not
social
you.
network
If
or
you haven't
anything,
built a
yeah.
network, yeah, and if you haven't,
Yeah,
like,
you're also probably not needed that much.
that's exactly what I was getting to. Is that sometimes, you know, you'll be needed for a particular facet of your job, but then as other things start to go up, somebody else has the same skill set, and they're there all the time, and they are, you know, somebody that, like, it is easier to work with. They're covering these other things than when you start looking at, like, downsizing or new projects. We always got new projects because we were always there. We were there late and there early. And I will say there is something about timeliness. I don't care what it is. Whether it be YouTube, whether it be your own personal life, timeliness, it was probably one of the most important things.
Consistency. Yeah.
How many times did I get a job? It's countless how many times we got a job from showing up early and somebody came in the room for a meeting. We were there maybe only 5 minutes early, and they start going, yeah, we're working on this. And you're like, oh, really? And you're the one there. And that's what helps you.
Opportunistic.
Yeah. It's very useful. But we'll move on from there. Good luck on your job. Let's go from here. That one we can't answer. Favorite, we talked about that one. We talked about that. We talked about Ubisoft. Flip Cup says, over the past few years, we've begun to see companies charging a premium to access already finished games a few days early. 3 days, which is the normal one. I believe even Dragon Ball, right? Sparkling cider is 3 days early. Do we think we can see companies allowing for early access as much as 30 days before everyone else?
Holy
shit. No. Dude, can you imagine? Oh, Silent Hill. Thank you, Nathan. Oh, Silver had to go. He'll be back.
okay.
Can you imagine 30 days? 30 days. 30 days would be mind-blowing.
Yeah. That would be unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
Flip, if you ever hear of a game, I would be doing a video on that one. I would be doing a video on that.
If you have to pay above full price, otherwise you have to wait at like 30 days, whatever.
Especially if a game is gold or something, and they're like, like Star Wars Outlaws, if that had gone 30 days, or Witcher had gone 30 days, or something like that, I would just be like, what's the Life is Strange is doing 2 weeks, and we've already bitched about that for like 3 solid podcasts in a row. They're doing like 2 weeks early for their chapters. That's unacceptable, man. That's unacceptable. That is a it's not only odd, it's just a shit thing. So no, I'm not gonna.
I think that's, and I don't throw the term anti-consumer very often. Very often, but I think that is legit an anti-consumer practice. It's almost to the point of like extorting you for money for you to not feel like you're missing out. And it's very different when you talk 3 days or 30 days or even 2 weeks, because that's a much bigger time frame. Those might be the 2 weeks you have to play the game. Those might be Silver's back.
Yeah,
those might be the 2 weeks where your friends are playing the game.
Yeah,
and that's your window.
Just so you know, Flip Cup was asking about 3 days early games, and he was saying, do we ever think that a company is going to allow for early access as much as 30 days? And I was like, we were just saying it would be no.
I think they would struggle to even extend that to 7 days.
Yeah, I mean that is a long time. We'll see it attempted, but I just think that the pushback will be insane, and it'll be insane in the way it's been, where it's the mob, like that is.
Honestly, I don't even know that we'll see that attempted.
You don't think we'll see many sevens?
No, I mean, I could see them maybe push it to 5 or something like that. I think we've had like 1 or 2 at 5 days early access, but I think yeah, I mean, maybe I'm too naive there, but I feel like they have the sense that the pushback of going that far that quickly um, would that there wouldn't be a foundation laid for that. Like
Yeah, I think it would be really
I feel like it
hard,
would be
man.
incremental. Like it would be
Yeah.
gradually they would try to move there.
Like the old days when movies were only released on Fridays, over Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it began
Right.
Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now sometimes you have Wednesday midnight showings, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But that took what, 15 years or longer for that to sort of become more of a thing. Yeah, dude, if we went to 30 days, I don't even know. Okay, honestly, if we went to 30 days and I couldn't figure out a reason why, some crazy reason, because 30 days going gold 30 days early is actually sort of not unheard of, but it's not usual. For example, Dragon Age went gold, I think, today or yesterday, and it comes out on the 30th. So it's, 25 days, what have you. The idea of a game going 30 days gold and saying when you pay that money, you're going to get the full real game 30 days early, that person is paying to be a pretty early beta tester.
I feel like you're also taking a hell of a risk if you're going like the 30-day early access route, where okay, so there's going to be a select elite that are going to be able to play the game 30 days early, but that select elite is also then going to be exclusive in being able to like provide their impressions, positive or negative, and that's going to potentially hugely weigh in on what happens at release then. So that could have a significant impact on sales. Like if it has a really poor early access, that could have a really, really significant, like on that 30-day time frame. That could have a significant effect on the sales on the release.
Connected with that is like the idea that we all play a game and there's a little bit of a love affair at first. Then there's a little bit of downtime. I could see people 30 days, by the 15th day, they already played it a week ago. They start playing other games.
People stream it for those 30 days, and why should I play it now?
A game comes out on the 15th that has one system slightly better than yours on the first.
Yeah,
so
what
do you do?
Guys might have moved on or whatever.
That seems like stretchy. That seems like a bad, just bad in so many ways. Doesn't mean it won't happen. I think we've talked about all these others. We talked about seasonal stuff. What are your thoughts about Ubisoft? We talked about Ubisoft. He's just saying, what are your thoughts about Ubisoft refunding people? But they said they were going to, so I don't really think there's many thoughts there. What else do we have? I was looking, no news that popped while we were in here, which is nice. Other than, again, Vessel of Hatred got
I did see one
good reviews.
Piece where
Go for it.
Apparently Earth Defense Force is removing its Epic Store requirement, or Epic account requirement.
Is that not like the third or fourth game this week that's done that? I feel for some reason like that 2 or 3 games prior to this one have also done that. So I don't know if something's happened that I'm not aware of behind the scenes, but okay. So it just required you to be into both so you could play multiplayer with Epic people? Is that what it was?
It required you to have an Epic online account, to play the game online.
So
even if you were just playing by yourself or whatever.
Even if you're playing, okay, gotcha. All right, so it'll still be there if you want to play with Epic people, but you don't have to sign in at all. Is that?
I mean, you won't be. I don't think you'll be able to play with Epic Online people without having an Epic Online account.
Right.
I would imagine that you can just play with people on Steam now without the Epic account. I would imagine that that's how it's going to be.
Let me tell you something. And this is just me being me, just thinking the way I would want as many people possible to play with. But I also would not want to be forced to sign into a game if I'm playing it alone. Does that make sense? So those two, so including Steam, I'd love just any game just easily being able to be whatever I want. Or not even Steam, sorry, but any other account of any kind. It'd be nice to just be able to play your game and not worry about it. But
just play it through the platform you have the game on, whether that platform is Epic, whether it's Steam, or whether it's whatever. Like I don't think you should be required to have a Steam account to play a game on the Epic Store either, for that matter.
Yeah, me neither. Mm-hmm. I know everybody's just in love with everything Steam, but I am not. I'm not in love with anything, any of those kind of things. I won't kill it. I won't hate it, but it would be nice. It's just
Do
one
you
extra
think
step.
how much of the market does Steam have compared to, Epic or any other?
95.5 probably.
That much? Know. Yeah.
I mean, Steam
I think
as a platform. Go ahead.
The last numbers I read, I think were certainly above 80%.
Wow. I mean, when you think about any other market, if you have an 80% market share, it's
pretty much a monopoly.
It's a monopoly. It's unheard of. I mean, there are laws against that for.
Well, there are, but Epic came along later, so they went from 0 to, let's say it is 20. They went from 0 and got 20% of the market. That also, in and of itself, is not necessarily terrible.
That is
as in
bad.
numbers wise. But it's. I mean, I think for the most part, people just they want to be able to play on whatever it is. Even Xbox, man. I'll sign in. You get that other sign in when you're on your PC, and you're like, dude, I wish these sign-ins, dude. There's like 19 sign-ins. Sometimes it feels like you turn on a game. It's like, here's a box, here's a box, here's a box. Come on, guys. And this happened with Xbox when they had Windows Live, because I believe Fallout 3 didn't even work for a while because Xbox Live or whatever, that service went down. Was removed, and some games wouldn't even launch because they were using that old launcher, and I don't remember how that got fixed. But
I mean, that's also been one of the huge things with Ubisoft, right? I don't know if I've understood this right, but I heard that in the announcement they made back when they delayed Shadows and made like commitments to stuff they were going to change, they also talked about removing the requirement for the for Ubisoft Connect on Steam.
I did see that they said they were releasing Shadows on Steam, but I did not see anything about but I mean, it would make sense.
That's what I saw, and that's how I initially understood it. But everyone else, there were not everyone else. There were a number of outlets I saw reporting it as if, now Ubisoft is like allowing you to just run the game through
Buy
Steam.
the Steam version, play the Steam version.
Yeah,
that's fine with me. I mean, I would
that
also
would be great, but I don't know if that was what they meant.
Exactly. And admittedly, if it was a multiplayer game, I will sign in to every place, just because after a while I've got a friend on everything. So I will sign in. But the ability for you to not have to is the positive. That's the end all be all, is whatever you buy it on, you should be able to play there, including if you get a cross-play game on Xbox and PlayStation. I do actually wish you could, and I haven't seen this, so anybody in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm playing a certain game that is across both, I would sort of like to be able to say just Xbox right now, or just, we had it with Space Marine, that I wish I could have done that, because Space Marine was having those automatic sign-ins of people, and you just be trying to get your friend into Space Marine as quick as possible. You're like, dude, get in here as quick as possible, because this person's going to fill up my lobby, and boom. And so if I could have restricted one full set of people, whichever set, I would have liked it. I would have... I would have been happy with that.
Yeah.
But luckily they've fixed that now. Has anybody jumped into the private lobby thing now? Because it's up and running, right? And it just works now? Just works.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Well, why didn't it just work day one? Whatever. That is really dumb. It didn't work day one.
It's also it's also odd because like the campaign is basically private lobby. You don't actually do matchmaking for the campaign.
Right.
You only do the matchmaking for the combat operations.
Yeah, that game had some weird little issues. I mean, nothing that was, game breaking, but there were definitely issues with how they handled the sign-ins and stuff like that. But it's done well. Happy to see them do it. And they announced, Saber also announced that they're working on an Avatar game. Did you guys see that? Yeah, I think I posted it yesterday. They announced that I think it was Saber. Let me look at my tweets. It is a Last Airbender. Yeah, Avatar The Last Airbender. Not Avatar, sorry.
Oh.
But Avatar The Last Airbender from Saber Interactive and Paramount Game Studios. You play as an all-new, never-before-seen Avatar. Anime stuff's kicking it lately.
Interesting.
Like we got Sparkling Cider coming up. We got this. I'm gonna say it forever. I'm gonna say it.
It's gonna be interesting whether that's gonna
Sparking
be
Zero.
a prequel or a sequel. Then
1,000 years prior to the
Avatar's
movies
movie.
or to the current fiction, I think is what they
Right.
said.
So 1,000 years prior to Aang, I would assume.
That's what I believe I saw. Unfortunately, I didn't paste that into my tweet, so I can't see that. But yeah, no, anime's doing well, man. You got Dragon Ball, you got this. I mean, I played them. The one with the giants trying to get out of the city, or trying to get into the city. What is that one called?
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan. Yeah. You got a lot of goofy anime stuff, which is really cool. Whether I love every one of them or not, it's awesome to see all of those coming out for people because I know people absolutely love that. Would you say, are you excited for this then, Johnny? Like, does a Airbender?
I am not a big Airbender. I haven't consumed a lot of the source material.
Okay.
Only the animated series and the movie, which was very good. So I'm not like the biggest fan. I like the animated series, but it's not something that's like, deeply special to me or anything. So
No, not pulling you in.
it's cool. It's a cool setting. So I'd be down to play it probably.
Last but not least, I want to thank everybody for your time coming in, watching the channel.
Thank
Really
you.
would appreciate if you guys give it a thumbs up. Check it out on Spotify and iTunes. I put the patron in there. If you guys get a chance, I would love for you guys to become patrons. Leap in, play some games with us. Helps the channel, especially as people are taking trips to Disneyland to check out games. Yours truly does not. But that's also because I just hate kids and fun. Actually, I still wouldn't have gone. I'm trying to think of what I would have gone to. If it was a Renaissance fair with winches and swords, might have went to that. Nah, probably not. Probably wouldn't have went to that either. That'll be it for us. Do we have anything else that's
it. Also, joining the channel gives you access to Discord.
Oh, yeah,
Discord has
true.
been great,
If you're
We
a
do
member.
chats.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that'll be it for us, everybody. This will be up on iTunes and Spotify in about 1 hour. I absolutely appreciate all of you. Peace out. I hope we ushered the weekend in, at least in a somewhat fun way. See ya. Oh,
Take
wait
care,
a minute.
everybody.
Take care.
Oh, I thought somebody said Switch 2 just got announced. I was like, what the fuck? Peace out. That would have been crazy.